I
Hello,
just meant,
Stuart. How are you?
yeah, I'm breathing. How are you?
Great. We're all
That's
getting
what
older.
counts.
I'm sorry?
So we're all getting older, Stuart.
Yeah, every day.
Increasingly classic. Increasingly
Is that what
classic.
it is?
Yes, never old. Increasingly classic. But well, that's great, gentlemen. Thank you all for signing in, and I just making sure that the Facebook stream is working here. This is the first time I've done. We've all been doing this new technology, right? People have been holding meetings and doing things. So I believe we're on. Yes, we're on. Okay, great. So we can start. Greetings, anyone who's joining in, and please comment in the comment thread, and we're gonna get started here.
I like your shirt, by the way. I have a drawer full of mine.
Thank you. Yes, this is.
Yeah.
I forget when they gave us these, but one of the one of the shows. Let's see. So let's say hello to everyone that's here. We've got Mr. Stuart Young. How are you, Stuart?
Good. Thank you, Andre. I'm still breathing, which in these days, in this sci-fi world we're living in, is good.
It's true.
Yeah, because I mean, all I read about America is very scary at the moment.
Yes, we've got.
Yeah, try living here, Stuart. It's not very much fun for us.
Where are you now?
I'm in Connecticut.
Oh, Connecticut. Well, it's probably safer than Texas or Arizona.
It is, yeah.
Trying
to set up my phone a little better, but yeah, it's not bad for us here. But being in the U.S. is a little difficult right now.
It's Martin Darvill there on the right.
That's right.
He's on this call because he thought it was to celebrate Leeds getting into the Premiership.
Martin, how are you, dear friend?
Yeah, there he's got it.
Good, Andre.
Hey, man. Thanks for jumping in. So this is just a little gathering, a little celebration. We're going to talk about some memories, and we've got people on Facebook Live who can put their questions in. And I thought today would be, it's 10 years gone, isn't it? I mean, we can't believe it. Any of us that are counting the days, right? But it's just incredible. Time flies, and that's something that's a common thought. But here we are. So I'm going to run through again and just quickly introduce some faces here for anyone that's logging in that may not know. So we've got Paul Bielatowicz is here. He's in the Carl Palmer trio, of course, who carries on this legacy, this beautiful music. We have Tom Woolley, who is a 25-year manager from Sam Ash. So has done so much for the Moog company and getting the synthesizers out there. And along the line, when there was Near Fest, he helped with some of the equipment going for Keith's group and things like that. So we'll talk about that. Then we have Al Goff. Al Goff would take an hour to introduce, but real briefly, many of you musicians know the Goff name as it's associated with the B3 organ and the Leslie speakers and the Goff speakers. And Al is, I think, the world's living expert on the B3 and things surrounding it, but also a close friend of Keith Emerson going back to the 1970s. Then we have Mr. Stuart Young, another gentleman that I've worked for and that has become a dear friend. Stuart, of course, longtime manager of ELP, and very special today because it's also the 40th anniversary of AC/DC's Back in Black. Stuart Young is the guy who connects AC/DC and ELP, which is rock and roll history.
Wow.
So we have Stuart Young, and of course he's also a legendary manager of Zucchero and the Scorpions and many, many groups, many stories. And then, last but not least, my dear friend Martin Darvill, who I work for and with, he always reminds me, Andre, you don't work for me, you work with me. And sorry for the bad English accents. I love to do that. But Martin, a dear friend and someone I have been on 3 or 4 continents with, touring with the group Yes, who I work for, of course. And Martin, many groups that he's worked with too, and longtime manager of John Wetton and many other artists, Wishbone Ash. So we've worked together wonderfully. So great to see you all. And I want to start with the eminent gentlemen who've known these guys the longest. Stuart, tell us a little bit about the first time you heard of ELP or Keith Emerson or any of the guys. What was your very first?
My very first time I ever heard them, I was working for my dad, who was an accountant, and he said to me, I think you should come into the office next Friday because I have a group coming into the office to see me. And I said, who's that? And he said, it's Emerson, Lake and Palmer. This was in, I think about October 1971. And to be honest, I'd never heard of the band, but I was an accountant and one of my clients was Harvey Goldsmith. And Harvey was a promoter then, as is now. And I called him up and said, Harvey, do you know this band, Emerson, Lake and Palmer? And he said, wow, yes, how do you know them? And I told him. He said, oh, he says they're amazing. Anyway, I went to the meeting and the 3 of them turned up and they had a meeting with my dad and I was there and that's when I first met them.
Wow.
They were accountants, basically. And they had a management company then called EG Management. And they were just about to go on tour in America. And their affairs were in a little bit of a mess. And I had to try and put a system together. And they said, why don't you come and see us in America? So I remember I flew out to New York and they happened to be playing at Madison Square Gardens. And I flew out also with an accounting expert. We had to set up the system. It was very complicated in 71. The English government were taking about 95% in taxes. And so the band said, we will leave you 2 tickets. So I didn't really know what to expect. And we had seats right in the stalls, Madison Square Garden. And I think they started with Hoedown, or was it Hoedown? I think so. And that's when I first heard the band. And I was completely shocked and amazed, because it was an amazing experience. And then I remember seeing them in Miami, and that's how I started.
That's great. That's a great memory. And back to the beginning. Over to Martin Darvill. Mr. Martin Darvill, tell us a little bit about that first time hearing them, and then maybe speak a little bit about when you first got involved.
Well, I think brain cell surgery changed my life, actually, when I was 13 or 12 or 13, when I first heard that, and just having been a member of the Sweet fan club up till then. I think just listening to that just blew my head off. And then fast forward 40 years or so, I was lucky enough for Stuart allowed me to become a co-manager for a few years of ELP, and one of the things we did was put the 40th anniversary together with a guy called Steve Foster that you knew, Andre.
Right.
The promoter who died last year in a car crash, sadly.
Yes.
And to work on that was just one of the greatest events of my life, which has involved managing Asia and yes, and other things, but ELP was the highlight, certainly. That 2010 weekend was as good as it got. But you agree with that, Andre, don't you? That weekend was just astounding.
I agree, and to date, it's the greatest show that I've been a part of, and the most elaborate, huge audience and all that. The nervousness and the kind of importance of that gig is unsurpassed. Yeah, it was an incredible night, and it all came off.
Of course, do you remember? I remember. Stuart will remember this. That we painstakingly for 6-7 weeks arranged it so that the Pro Tools was there and it was all working fully for the intro and so on. And then it failed on the night, and we had been told that we had to finish at 10:30. And every minute it went over 10:30 was going to cost the promoter 50 grand or something. And there were fireworks and everything planned for 28 minutes past 10. And we could not get the electronics to work, could we, Stuart? and we had about half an hour and it was counting down. And eventually we went on, I think, at 1 minute to 9 and we came off at 29 minutes past 10.
Wow.
But it was very touch and go, wasn't it? And the fireworks went, nobody outside knew. I think they just thought, it was,
that's true. That's the key. That no one should know the magic. And touch and go. Very, very nice pun there. That some of you
got
caught.
that, did you, Andre? Yeah.
So let's. Okay, great. We have a couple more gentlemen that have jumped in. 3 keyboard players. 3 gentlemen that I love their music and their playing. Let's say hello to them in order. Here's Mr. Dave Kersner, who, of course, I've met. I actually met because of Greg Lake. We were doing the first cruise that we did. and I was programming the Nord, and I got in deep water where I didn't know how to do certain things he wanted. I called the gentleman to his right. Hello, Eric Norlander. How are you?
Hey, Andre. Good to see you.
Hi, Eric. So perfect segue to the story. So I pick up the phone, and I call Eric. I say, Eric, I'm trying to do this layering in the Nord and that. And he says, you know what? Where are you? I said, Miami. He said, that's great. Take this number down. Call my buddy Dave Kersner. I think he's nearby, and he'll. Oh, great. Call Dave Kersner, who says, I'm a mile away from the studio. Minutes later, Dave Kersner was in the studio, met Greg Lake, and helped us with the programming. So, hello, Dave, and that was how we met. Dave, tell us
Andre.
a little bit. How are you, man? Tell us a little bit of that. We want to start there with what was your first time hearing ELP, and what happened to you when you heard them?
Well, let's see. My very first time hearing ELP, I was like 15 years old, or 14 or 15, at a sleepaway camp, and I had Tarkus, and and I had heard from the beginning before that, and some of the sort of hits, I suppose, but which I always liked, Lucky Man, and
Sure.
But and C'est La Vie, but and I think I had a best of or some compilation that had the hits, but then I heard Tarkus and Pictures at an Exhibition, and being a keyboard player, I was just blown away. I was like, fascinated. And then many years later, so I've always been a fan of all the great progressive rock bands, of course. Yes, Asia, Genesis, ELP, UK, all of them. They're all influences. And when I was in the 90s, I played with an artist named Kevin Gilbert, and he was friends with Keith Emerson. And we actually had, I didn't know it at the time, but we actually had Keith's Hammond C3 in Kevin's studio when I played in his band. And anyway, we showed up at this gig, a little gig at this dive bar called Alligator Lounge on Pico in LA. And it was just a nothing gig. And out front, I saw Kevin talking to who I thought was Keith Emerson. So I pulled up with my car and my little keyboards and stuff, my little, not a modular, just a little Wurlitzer or whatever.
Uh-huh.
And I said, I pulled Kevin aside. I said, is that Keith Emerson? I said, yeah. I said, why is he here at this gig? He's like, oh, he wanted to come by and see us. He lives near here. And he said, you want to meet him? I'm like, of course I want to meet him. I'm a keyboard player. And so I met him, and Keith was so nice and friendly. And then, when we met, and then he said, so you need some help with your keyboards? And he said, could I be your roadie for the evening? And that was an amazing thing. That's my tale to keyboard players today. It's like Keith Emerson was my roadie for one evening, helping me move my Wurlitzer.
And he had that sense of humor where he would jump in and do things like that. That's a great story. We're going to jump back over the pond and say hi to Tom. Tom, correct me, Zachary, is that, do I? Oh,
Can you hear me?
Oh, there you go. Now we can, yeah.
Can you? I'll
Yeah,
get the mic closer.
Turn up a little bit, yeah, or get closer. Greetings to Tom.
Right. That's the correct pronunciation. Yes.
Okay, Tom Zachary, and Tom, of course, has a wonderful group, Noddy's Puncture, and you have a couple groups, right?
No, just Noddy's.
That's the one. But of course, some wonderful CDs, including one where Keith showed up and played. Yeah. And those of you can looking at the video can see there is a giant Moog modular right there. We got two modular fanatics here that we're going to talk to. But Tom, tell us a little bit about that same thing, but also a quick thing on what it was like to play with Keith.
Well, I didn't know it was going to happen. It was he just came up behind me and tapped me on the shoulder, basically. I knew he was going to come to the gig because Aaron had told me.
Okay.
But we'd already gone on, so I just thought, well, we'll go on and we'll play, and I've got to do my best, and then we'll come off, and then I'll say hi. But he just wandered onto the stage and and took over. I think it was Tarkus. The videos are on YouTube now.
Yeah.
And the whole gig became just a big. I mean, he was having a whale of a time. It was grinning from ear to ear, and he was loving it. And he just didn't ask. He just got up whenever the fancy took him. You know, it was amazing. Yeah. And of course, he let us release a CD of it.
Yes,
him,
so. which is a wonderful CD. Yes, the Masked Man. Yeah.
No, that. He named it. Thank you, Masked Man. Yeah.
That's great.
In fact, he even took some photographs of him. The first set of photographs, I said to him, "I've got this idea for the cover, and can you be peering around the wall as though I had this idea?" And he hired a Lone Ranger outfit.
Right.
Took a set of photographs, and they were a bit out of focus. And he said, "Oh, it's the fog in LA." And so he hung on to the costume, and he waited till the weather cleared and took some more. So.
Dedication to the humor.
Amazing.
Right. All of us who knew Keith know that, right? It's just the funniest man. One of my memories is almost every day. He was a very kind man, as they all were. And Keith and Greg were very funny. People don't realize that. But Keith especially, every day when he would arrive for sound check, there would be a joke. I wish I wrote them down. But one time he came in and very seriously he said, "Oh, Andre, I've got a couple of people for the guest list." Oh, okay, yeah. And I got a piece of paper, and Keith with a straight face, he says, "All right, you ready?" I said, "Yes." He says, "It's going to be my dentist. He's coming through. His name's Phil McCavity." And I very carefully wrote Phil. Okay, McCavity, is that Irish? Is MC? And he says, "Yes, Phil McCavity, my dentist, Andre." Phil. Oh, fucking hell, Keith. So that was Keith. The other funny story was he went to meet the Queen. There was some kind of awards thing, and they met the Queen, and everyone comes online and you say hi and hello, Your Majesty. And the Queen said to Keith Emerson, this is Keith telling the story. The Queen said, "I've seen you on TV playing piano." And Keith said, "I've seen you on The Money." So
excellent.
So that's what it was like. Just continue. Let's jump back over to the U.S. and we're gonna let's hear from Al Goff. Now, Al, as I said, knew Keith for forever, and I'd like Al to speak a little bit, but please include your story that I love of when your dad and you went to deliver an organ for Keith Emerson. Tell us that, please, and whatever else you like about the beginning.
Well, like Stuart and some others, I was young when I saw him too, and my dad was the Hammond organ service lead for New England and here in the States. From 1940, my dad worked for Hammond organ, and he was an organist, forever. So he said we had a Hammond store, and he said, "Oh, we're going to unbox an L100 and whatever." Okay, and it was 1,000 of them. We were unboxing B3s and everything, all brand new in the 60s and the early 70s. Well, the first show, I actually looked it up because I had to remember, was in 1971 at a place called the Bushnell in Hartford, and it's not a huge show. It was great, but that's where I saw the band first. and I was impressed. Well, the big show that they came for was in August of 1971, August 30th. And that was a big show, 15,000 seats. And that's the show, the first show where we really were involved. My dad and I were out there. And my dad, of course, was Hammond organ through and through. And he saw Keith start into his act, which he had done before, but we had only seen it once. I'm sorry, I hadn't. And then I saw it in New Haven also, but later. But this was the first. We brought a brand new L100 over, and they started the knife attack on it. And my father, we had just unboxed the organ, and my father was absolutely livid. And he was like screaming. And of course, during that, Carl stays out there and he's doing a little playing, but Greg had walked off stage, and my father we're on the side stage looking, and he sees the organ is screaming and all the keys are flying. And I said, oh my God, the old man's going to flip. I don't know what he's going to do here. He's going to go out on stage and start throwing things. And he started to walk to the stage, and they stopped him. They said, no, Mr. Goff, it's okay. And somebody from the band said to him, no, it's all set. We're going to pay for the organ. You're goddamn right you're going to pay for the organ, he says. He was raising hell about it. And then it happened in New Haven. The same thing at the Coliseum. The following, we saw them. And that was it. My father, who was, the senior Hammond organ technician for Hammond Organ Company at the time, called up Hammond, and he said, I want to put a stop to this. And of course, Hammond said, oh yeah, we're gonna write him a letter. So my dad was telling me the story, long ago. You go back up into like 1989, 1990. Keith and I are in Rochester Institute of Technology. We're setting up for the Steel Wheels tour, or whatever I think it was that, but it might have been, I'm sorry.
That was with Chuck, probably. Yeah.
I'm sorry. I was thinking of the Stones. The Black Moon tour, we were setting up for Black Moon, or probably before that. I had done the first C3 over the pictures. C3 rebuilt it in the late 80s. And Keith and I are sitting on the drum riser having lunch in Rochester with Carl and Greg. But it's Keith and I sitting on the drum riser. And he said, Al, he said, there's something I wanted to talk to you about. And I said, and we talked all the time. I said, what do you want to talk about, Emma? Hammond stuff? No. He said, did I tell you that Hammond organ wrote me a letter? And I said, no. He said, yeah, they wrote me a letter telling me that I can't do knife attacks on the organ or some such thing. I sitting on the drum riser. And he said, yeah, we're sitting on the drum riser eating sandwiches. And I said, there's something I heard about that letter. We talked all the time. I said, what do you want to talk about, Emma? And he says, well, your dad wrote a letter to Hammond. I said, I know. I was right there when he did it. He said, they were all upset. He goes, yeah. He said, Hammond told us privately sales were so good in the UK and in Europe for the L100. They would provide us organs if we needed them.
Right.
So you have the optics of what he was doing, and oh my God, that's a terrible thing. But sales were so good that nobody was saying a word.
It's the best commercial. It's the best advert for the durability. Well, I met you, of course, because you came to one of the Emerson Lake shows to do some repair and some tweaking on one of the B3s, on the B3.
C3,
and,
yep.
C3. Oh, it was a C3, sorry, and you changed the tubes and all that sort of thing. So that was a great meeting, and of course, you've come out to see Jeff Downs and you work with all these people. I want to jump to 2010 for a minute and get some reflections from Martin and Stuart, and John Turner is here, who mixed the front of house show.
Hi, John.
That beautiful day. Yeah, and I want to remind people watching too, if you have not seen the concert, it's on Access TV. I think it's on YouTube. But that wonderful show is up there, the 2010 concert. And but I want to start with we kind of arrived in London, and hey, how are you, mate?
Andre, how you doing,
Long
mate?
time. Good to see you. Good to see you.
Good to see you, man. How you been keeping?
I've been good, you know.
Sorry, guys.
Twilight Zone meets Black Mirror is the quick answer for But good to see him. Always good to see young Darvill. But Martin, I want to ask you, and then Stuart, you came down a little bit later to visit. I want to ask, what was the thought? Because you guys rented a soundstage at the Shepperton Studios. And I want fans, if you don't know what Shepperton is, go look that up. Shepperton is where many James Bond movies were made and Star Wars and all kinds of movies. And actually, while we were there, if you remember, Martin, they were making Captain America next door. Yeah. So tell me a little bit about about Shepperton and what brought us there and all that.
Well, I think Greg, I think that was Greg's request actually. Because you'd rehearsed there before British tours before, hadn't you, Stuart?
Yes.
Shepperton, yeah. I think Greg was very fond of it.
Ah.
It's close to his house.
Okay.
It's very that's right, yeah.
Yeah, he just wanted to make sure Carl had a long drive.
I was going to say, as I would say if Greg was here, if it was so close, why wasn't he on time?
Yeah.
But go ahead, Martin. Sorry.
Well, that was about
that was it. That's why we picked it. Okay, that's why we got there. I see.
It was Greg's preferred rehearsals, and everyone was comfortable with it.
Okay. No, it was beautiful, and just great big room, and there's some pictures somewhere. This celebration, by the way, folks, will continue, and Martin and I had spoken about this a few months ago, and we're all of us involved. We're gonna stay with this, and we're gonna put together some memories for all of you fans. We're gonna take some pictures and some bits from this and some stories, because we all feel it's important to everyone remembers the ELP legacy, but that final few months is so special because it brought the guys back together after a long break, and to see that magic one more time. I think, and
that concert was so special, to see 20,000 people out the front just having a whale of a time, and although everybody was paddling furiously underneath, the band was serene and absolutely on top of it completely, and we had a genius out front. John Turner. Wonderful to see you, John. Good on Barnsley, by the way. Barnsley staying up at the last minute. Delighted you needed a few
Congratulations, Leeds, mate.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. And you're welcome to Ellen Road if you want to come and see some of the big boys. Stuart's coming up there. But Andre, working with people like John at the time, I mean, he had it completely under control. So we could rest assured that there was that John, and the lighting as well was beyond compare.
Just fantastic,
and Greg and Keith and Carl just played perfectly as well.
Yeah,
just wonderful. The weather stayed good, and apart from, I think the band that went on before us, Ian Hunter. Were you involved in it? Didn't they end up having a punch up or something? While we were waiting to go on?
There was an embellished story that never happened, but yes, actually it was the pub rock group of Joe Elliott
from Def Leppard.
Joe Elliott from Def Leppard, and he had his thing going on, and wonderful guys, and except that someone didn't tell them it was time to leave, and it went on, and then the next day in the papers there was this thing: ELP crew fights with, which never happened. The local crew got a little tough with them, but. The other thing I remember about that, and I kind of labeled my video 10 Years Gone with a little nod to the rock and roll fans, of course, Led Zeppelin. But as I was standing there that afternoon, just waiting for the things to begin, here comes Jimmy Page with a couple mates and a cooler full of beers. So I got to meet Jimmy Page that day, and hi, Jimmy, thank you. And he goes, no, thank you, man. And so Jimmy just stood on the side and watched Ian Hunter and Joe Elliott and all that having a few beers. So, there's a lot of things on that day. I want to jump over to John then. John Turner, how are you, man? John Turner, illustrious front of house man for so many wonderful artists. And him and I toured with Greg Lake, and we did this gig. John, give us a bit of your reflections of the rehearsal and the gig.
Hey, guys. Great to see everybody again. It's been a while. Paulie? Yeah. My first meeting with Greg was, I got a call from Brian Shaw and said, listen, we got this thing together with Greg Lake. Going to do front of house for it? Well, yeah, sure. So off I went down to Shepperton and met Greg, because I'd never met him before. Of course, we had half the Strictly band in that lineup and stuff, which was the first tour that I did with him. And
wow. What year?
2005.
2005,
okay.
yeah, that's right. Yeah. So we did that tour, which was excellent. And Greg, throughout the tour, kept saying, Johnny, he said, when we get the LP back together, man, you're going to come and do front of house for us. And I was like, yeah, okay, Greg. Yeah. I thought,
Sure.
in my dreams, you know.
Yeah.
When pigs fly, we used to call it. When pigs
That's
fly.
it. Yeah, when pigs fly.
Sure.
You remember, Andre?
But that was it. You know, I got the call and spoke with Martin, and we went and had a meeting, and off we went down to Shepperton, and we all met up there.
The pigs flew.
Oh, man.
We had T-shirts made up, When Pigs Fly.
That's right. That's right.
I never got
still
one of
have
them,
mine.
Al.
We got one
I
of
still
these.
have mine.
And that, of course, as they say, the rest is history.
Yeah.
But
No,
you know, for myself, after working with bands for like 40 years, to get asked to do ELP's reunion 40th anniversary gig was just, well, I still get a tear. I still get a lump in my throat.
Yeah.
It was just awesome.
You were the first person on the list that Greg said, if we're doing it, John Turner has to do front of house.
You know,
contract.
Well, I used to get calls from Greg, you know, when I had my split up with the ex-wife and stuff. Greg used to call me every Sunday morning. Hey, Johnny, Greg here. and we, you know, we'd chat, and we even chatted about the HighVoltage gig and things. It just went on and on. And I was just really, really honoured to be part of it with all you guys, like, you know.
Yeah.
Like,
That was great fun.
It was a great team.
Yeah. No, it was a team, and you know, likewise. Hey.
Hiya.
How are you?
All
Great to
right.
see you.
Hi, how are you?
Good to see you. Everyone looking healthy and relaxed.
How's it
I'm not-
going?
Good, you know. We're all at home and playing some music and doing things like this. And on this memorable day, just gathering some friends and just talking about how the time has flown.
PDA.
So
yeah, absolutely. Can't believe it's that long ago, eh?
How is this?
Amazing. Yeah, how did it happen? Yeah.
It really, yeah.
Oh.
But we were a team, John, and Martin and Stuart. I'm honored they brought me back because I had done the Emerson Lake tour months before, and obviously I passed the audition because they asked me to come back, and so there was 5 of us in the crew, and we lived, and we invited the other guys. Some of them might come in later, but we all lived in a hotel not far from Shepperton. And we would just go every day.
Jump in my car. Throw the bags
we
in
go
my
in your car. And so we just camped out. And that is a special memory that does bring a tear sometimes, because what was special about it, and I think the fans need to know this also, is that they Robin's here.
How are you?
Everyone's here.
Hey, Robin.
You can't hear, right? Martin's saying hi. Everyone's saying hi. But the fans should know also that they hadn't played together in years, you know.
Yeah.
And another thing they need to know, and this is very public, so I'll say it, but Greg had a stroke about a year and a half before, and he spoke about it a few times, and so I always I think he was heroic, because a lot of people, if that happens, you just retire, you stop, you quit. And Greg he wasn't able to exercise. He did put on some weight, and he had some difficulty in some things. But he was heroic, because when you have a stroke, it affects your whole body, your whole situation. And so I say that because it's important. You know, once in a while, on the fringes, most fans are filled with love. But on the fringes, some fans will say, "Oh, Greg, he put on weight. He did this. He did that." He was a hero because he fought through all of that, and he knew that he wanted to play music. He didn't need to do that. He could have retired. But I always say that when they got together in Shepperton, and we saw that friendship come back, and that magic, the five of us who were there, and Stuart and Martin and people who would come to see the rehearsals, we share something very special because we got to see them put this magical thing back together. And that's, beautiful friendship. Stuart, on that note, reflect, please, a little bit more on just, when you spoke, of course, at the beginning of meeting ELP, but when you arrived, give us some thoughts when you came in 2010, and it was kind of, we were rehearsing, and kind of, what was your gut reaction?
Well, it was Groundhog Day. Can you hear me?
Yes. It was
Oh, yeah,
Groundhog Day.
no, it was great to see the guys working again.
I don't recognize the name.
Yeah.
And obviously, it was an incredible experience seeing it all back again. Of course, my memories go back really to the 70s, and all the shows we did together were so different. And of course, to play to 20,000 people in your first show was a little nerve-wracking.
Yeah.
And I remember definitely, as Martin said, it was all touch and go that we were even going to get on stage with the problems. And I think, wasn't it, Mr. Wexler was running around there, wasn't he?
Yes, Keith was part of, yeah.
Yeah. And nobody knew what was going on. And I remember Jimmy Page, he was around because he was a friend of Keith's, and of course I knew him well. And he was asking me, when are they going on? When are they going on? But it worked out great in the end. And I thought the show was fantastic.
No, it really did. At the end of the day, warts and all. And because of the technical, one of the things I always say too, because of the technical problems, there was, the release has a mistake just here and there. But I actually think that's better than when you go in on a live album and fix everything. I always think that it's an honest snapshot of what went on, and I think it's great. The energy it's rock and roll. They're back.
But that's because we only had the stereo tracks, didn't we, John? The multi tracks didn't work. The Pro Tools didn't work, so we only had stereo.
That's it.
And Greg messed around with that. It was a fantastic recording ultimately. In
a roundabout way, it ended up being a beautiful thing.
It's so honest,
Let's say hey to. I don't know. Are you muted there, Eric, or am I? Are you on mute? There you are. Yeah. Let's say hi to Eric Norlander, who a dear friend of mine and a longtime synthesist, and he knew Keith quite well, and he also carries the torch for the keyboard system that needs a truck. He has a couple modulars. So Eric, and Eric, of course, longtime keyboard player for many great groups, his own groups, but also in Asia with John Payne, and I know he's got a record with John Payne coming. So a real favorite of a lot of the prog fans watching. Hello, Eric. Tell us a little bit about when you first heard Keith and Emerson ELP, and what did that do to the young musician you were?
All right. Well, first of all, the album I have coming out with John Payne, it's not called Asia. So apologies to Martin over there. And no
worries, Eric.
Right.
No worries.
So
Cheers, Keith.
I met Keith in the early 90s. I actually had done some programming for a sample library.
Okay.
And the sound design company had contacted me. This was back for the Akai S1000 sampler, in ancient history. And they said, we need to find someone that knows about Akai S1000 samplers and Emerson Lake and Palmer. And I said, oh, I can tick both of those boxes. Maybe that wasn't, yeah. Anyway, so we just kind of became friends after that. And, you know, Keith came to our Christmas parties and came to my gigs. Did a lot of recording actually at my home studio. But to keep this relevant to this meeting, right before the High Voltage Festival, I had played a benefit concert at the Playboy Mansion.
Okay.
For the it was the Ronnie James Dio Stand Up and Shout Cancer Benefit or something like that.
Oh yeah.
And so of course it was very, very Hollywood, and you know, had all the press, and you know, the press were dressed nicer than we were, of course. And you know, they'd come in, everyone's doing interviews out by the pool and in the grotto and all that. And Keith was standing right next to me, and they said, oh, and so, you know, who is playing with you tonight, Eric? And oh, well, it's, you know, this person and this person. And you might know my friend Keith over here. He's playing in an up and coming Brit pop group called Emerson, Lake and Palmer. And then, of course, once I said that, all the cameras went like, zoom.
Yeah.
And that was the end of my interview. And so it's like, make a mental note not to ever like upstage yourself by introducing Keith Emerson when he's standing next to you. But then later that evening when we played our set, you know, it was always a little intimidating playing keyboards in front of Keith. It's like, you know, this is the guy. There's no one better. He is the legend. And he was always very supportive, but come on, he's still Keith Emerson. Yep. So this is late in the night. It's at the Playboy Mansion. You know, antics ensue. There is nudity. It is an adult event. So I'm up there on stage trying to do my job, you know, playing the song. And there's Keith, like within 10 feet of me, a bit inebriated, dancing with Playboy bunnies. And he's mouthing the lyrics to the song as we're playing it. And I'm there just trying to hold it together, thinking, if you would have told me at 16 years old that I would be doing this,
right.
So that's one of my great MO stories.
That's
Eric,
great.
Were you naked? Did you have to be naked as well?
Much like right now, I was naked from the waist down.
That's going to be part 2 of our video. So I want to jump.
We need to hear though, Eric. We don't need to hear that. Okay?
I want to jump back over to Stuart, because I know Stuart only had a little time, and I want to get one more thought from Stuart. But I also want to say to Stuart, in case I know he's going to be busy later, I want to again take a second. Stuart, do you remember, because I'm a big rock and roll nerd, do you remember on the day 10 years ago, I came to you and I said, Stuart, I want to thank you. And he said, what for, Andre? And I said, well, today is 30 years since Back in Black. And I wanted to thank you for you know, your part in AC/DC. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
You do. And you were stunned. You were like, oh, yes, it is actually. But
I probably only got the gig with them because I had the same surname.
Right. That's great. Well, we should. I know you have to run, but we should get together at some point to hear your AC/DC memories.
I mean, I'll just tell you a Keith story if you want.
Please, yes, please. Let's stick with that.
I can't remember the year. It must have been 75 or something like that. And Keith came to me. He said he really wants to juice up the act, do something really special. So we found a guy. His name escapes me for the moment. New Jersey, and I spoke to this guy, and he said, "Oh, I got loads of tricks, you know, loads of stuff, you know." So Keith and I went up. We drove up there. He's wearing all his levers. We got out there. It was a pretty rainy day in New Jersey. And the guy said, "You know, I've got this flying piano."
Oh.
And so Keith immediately, obviously, said, "Well, I'd like to try it out." And so we went there, and of course he had this piano, and behind it was like a forklift, but you couldn't see it because of the curtain. Keith was strapped into this piano, went up and down, and he did a triple flip, and he was happy as a pig in shit. And I remember then Keith said, "Have you got anything else?" And the guy said, yeah, I've got this great thing. If you can get everybody to hold hands in the front row, we can give the guy at the end an electric shock, and it will go through everybody.
Whoa.
And Keith said, I don't think that's just stick to the piano. And I remember the funny thing was when we did this show in 2010, and Jimmy was there. When I was talking with Jimmy, he reminded me about the piano because when he had it on video. So when they were out on the Zep plane, he would have a loop, and they would be watching Keith doing the thing on the piano, doing the triple turn
spinning, yeah,
on the Led Zeppelin plane on the tour. But you know, it's pretty sad at the moment because obviously Keith's no longer here, and it's such a shame. But unfortunately, I've got to go because I promised my wife I'd finish something for her.
Yeah.
So I hope you all enjoy the rest of this, and thank you, Andre, for letting me know about it. And
Stuart, yes.
Stay safe, everybody. Be careful.
Cheers, Stuart.
Very, very dangerous.
Cheers, Stu.
Yes,
Great to see you again, man.
Okay.
A million thanks, Stuart, because we know you're very busy. But thank you, and I know all the fans thank you too for people don't realize the managers and all the things, the late nights and the struggling and the deals and the morning flights. So thank you.
It's easy. It's just a pleasure.
No, don't tell them it's easy.
Hello, everyone. Sorry.
You make it look easy. Yeah, you make it look
Keith!
easy. Cheers.
Hey!
Cheers, Stuart.
All right, bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Stuart.
Stuart's out.
Cool, Stuart.
Nice to see you all.
Let's say hello to Keith Wexer. We're going to talk to a couple of the guys who've worked on the Keith Emerson equipment. Mr. Keith Wexler.
Did you already tell the story of how we were planning to do a spinning grand piano for High Voltage Festival?
No, but that's a good segue. He just talked about the first one. Yeah. But hello to Keith Wexler. For those of you who don't know, this is Keith Wexler, my dear friend. And Keith is currently the tech for Jordan Rudess from Dream Theater. And he's worked for a million artists. And as I always say when I introduce him, he's the engineer on the Beach Boys' Kokomo. So he's
co-writer.
Yes, he mixed one of the most popular songs on earth. But
no,
many
philosophical Keith Wexler. Hey, buddy, good to see you.
Hey, good to see everyone.
But I want to thank Keith always because we met in Russia. The Emerson band was playing, and we became friends in 2008. And when they needed a guitar tech, Keith very kindly invited me to be that guy. Yeah. So Keith, how are you, man? Tell us a little bit. First time you heard Emerson or Emerson Lake and Palmer, and what was your, what happened?
Oh, well, okay. So a friend of mine, this must have been, 8th grade or something like that. Hey, you got to hear this record, right? So it was, the top of the head comes off and whatever like that. So I saw the band perform in 1972 was the first concert I saw. And then fast forward many years later, a friend of mine was Greg's guitar tech, invited me backstage, got tickets, got to see the band. Hey, nice to meet you guys, whatever. And then it turned into a career, like a career path for many years working with the band in just about, 10 different capacities, something like that, including songwriter, producer, engineer, tech, guitar tech, keyboard tech, programmer. I mean, you name it. So it was just a cool place where I could employ all the things that I do in with a bunch of guys that play music I like.
That's great. That's a nice arc. And of course,
I mean, to see this array of friends here, it's so great to see all of you. And of course, to be shut down by COVID-19, it's a really strange time. I'm glad I have the time to get on and have a meeting with you guys.
You know that Keith Wexler and I played a gig together.
Oh, yeah.
with Keith Emerson, actually.
Yeah, we were
That was, that was at, what was that? The Museum of Making Music in like 2009 or something. It was the Legacy of Moog exhibit. And Keith and I each played a set to open up the exhibit. And we inevitably were going to do an encore, and Keith, being very much in the moment, hadn't planned anything. And so he said backstage, Eric, do you know fanfare? And I knew Keith, and I knew that he was kind of in the moment. And so prior to that gig, I learned fanfare. Like, no one just knows that song. You have to, you have to work, right? So I learned it. And so, of course, I said, of course I know. Of course I know. Let's go play it. And then he said, well, let's have Keith play drums. And Keith Wexler was doing front of house. And so Keith sat down at the electronic drum kit, and the three of us played fanfare for the common man as Emerson, Wexler, and Norlander, the famous power trio that
Oh, wow.
fizzled out before we ever got started. Yes.
That's
the
catchy.
Supergroup that never happened.
Yeah, a super group that
Is
played.
there a
drums.
tape of that, Eric? Because I'd like to hear that.
I don't believe there is. I think there was a pretty strict no recording rule. But
He's got all the tapes,
Photos.
though, so come on, let's get it. Come on, Keith.
Keith Wexler would be the one to have it.
That's what I mean.
There's photos, but I believe there's no recordings.
Yeah, can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Eric, I have to give you props because that's hilarious. No one just knows fanfare just by chance. It's not like Freebird or something or the blues, you know.
What key is it? Yeah.
What key is it in?
Yeah, no. Which 5 keys does this modulate to? Yeah, no. Well, I want to touch base a little bit just on a very important side of Keith, which was, and we've mentioned that he popularized the C100 and the C3, and you know, he really took that into a new realm, as did John Lord and you know, Booker T and all kinds of people. But Keith really showed that they are durable because he would knock them over and stab them and all that. And I want to go to a couple people on this equipment thing. I want to go to my friend Tom Zackley, and because I remember I met Tom at the rehearsals in Shepperton, and it was wonderful because I'd heard about this guy. You know, Keith had said maybe a couple days before. You know, he said, "I've got my mate Tom coming out. You got to hear this guy. He's great. He does all my stuff. He's just, you know." It was okay, sure. If you're saying this, let's write this guy down. And so the day came, and so Tom arrived at Shepperton. And what was wonderful is Keith wanted to duplicate his destruction of an L100, I believe. And Tom, you brought yours over, didn't you?
I did.
Tell us a little bit about that. And
well, what I remember a few things about that. You can hear me okay, yeah?
Yeah, it's good.
I remember a few things about that. I went down twice, actually, because I took a Leslie, and he didn't want the Leslie in the end. I think they just stuck it through a Marshall.
Marshall, yeah.
Yeah. And I went down and dropped it off. And then on my way home, he called me and asked me if it was heavier than a normal one, because he tried lifting it. So I said, no, it's exactly the same one as you used to use. You know, it's no heavier. And then, of course, the organ was there for 2 or 3 weeks, and then we came down to the rehearsal, which was on the Thursday, I think. I was gigging the day after because we had a gig with my band in London on the Friday night, and then I think there was talk of a dress rehearsal gig on the Saturday, which never happened.
That's right. Yes.
And then
which terrified us.
Yeah. And then I remember that I came to Shepperton with all my mates. So we all sat there watching, and we were drinking coffee, and then I think it was Mark came up to me and he said, "What's wrong with the organ?" And my heart leapt because it was on full volume. He said, "It's been like that for ages. It's on full volume." And luckily I brought my little kit of parts, and it was just the bulb had gone in the foot pedal, you know.
Oh.
So I had to change that there in the rehearsal, and I got it going. Yeah, but I had all my spares, you know, spare start capacitor, spare motor, spare valves, the lot, you know. And yeah,
I remember. Yeah.
I do remember. I do remember the actual gig. Mark told me it's getting quite busy. He says you're gonna have to. I'm gonna have to ask you to look after the Hammond during the gig.
Yeah.
Because I'm too busy. So
Right.
I thought, okay, I'll do that. But my heart was in my throat throughout. I have to say.
So right
But it went-
before, in that gig, right before Emerson comes out with the L100 to destroy it, of course, is the drum solo. And so I was back behind with the drums because the drums spun around, ripped some wires out, and as it came back, we were busily putting the wires back together. And so this was, one of those, oh, look, here we go again things. And of
Spinal
course,
Tap.
Keith Emerson had forgotten that there were fireworks at the end of the drum solo. So he was pushing the L100 out, and Marc-Andre had to grab him and pull him back so that he didn't push the organ out and stand right on top of the fireworks that were ringing in front of the drum kit.
Just chaos.
By the
Chaos.
way, I'm still gigging that Hammond. By the way, it's working fine.
Yes,
Nice,
exactly.
nice. And those of you fans who don't know, go look up Noddy's Puncture, which is Tom's incredible group that does the music of Emerson, Lake and Palmer, and he's got some of his beautiful his own music too. That's electronic in nature, so that's really great. I want to say to Martin also, Martin, one of the things a manager always balances is you got us crew guys, and it's wonderful to have three of us here. Simone may jump in. He was kind of busy. And Marc-Andre sends his regards. He's out in the woods, so he wasn't able to tag in. But all of the five of us who were honored to be part of this. But Martin, you know this. The manager is in the middle because the crew comes to you and says, hey, Martin, we need this. The artist needs this. And then the manager has to say, we can't afford that. Or, but I'll say, let me say this, and then I want to hear your thought. I just want to tie it in with Tom, because when Tom came and brought the organ, we set up a couple Marshall stacks for Keith. The next day, or later that day, Greg came over to me and said, Andre, there's Marshalls over there. We need Marshall stacks on our side. And we ended up with Marshall stacks on stage. And we had to go to the manager and say, can we get so go ahead, Martin, though. Go ahead.
Well, at the very beginning, part of the contract was that Keith would do the spinning piano, and he did agree to do it. And the promoters were prepared to put up whatever funds were needed to make it work. And we actually went to the original guy that did the California Jam spinning piano. I don't know whether you remember this, Keith, do you, Rexy? But,
I certainly do. I have the plans that we had drawn up. And
it had everything, didn't we?
I was the technical coordinator, so I.
But of course, the legendary British health and safety people said, "Oh no, even if a chap wants to, and someone as famous as Keith Emerson, and who's as safe as houses, health and safety wouldn't allow us to do it because." Obviously, it'd bring a lot of pleasure into people's lives.
Always a problem.
But that was going to happen. I mean, the original idea was to do everything that ELP was famous for, and there were
so we
budgets
did do
for
the cannons.
But the cannons, yeah.
So we arranged for cannons, and 3 cannons show up, and Emerson, the Lake, and the Palmer. The guys are thinking, oh, okay, 3 cannons, but. Of course, the stage setup, and if you look at the final concert, there's one on the stage left downstage and one on stage right downstage, as they had done in the, first gig with pictures and so on. So the big plan to have the cannons go off at the end of pictures. And so, of course, Carl says, well, then I want my cannon outside my dressing room.
Right.
And of course, so we're doing a lot of technical stuff, but finally, when I got back to the dressing room area, the guys had turned the cannon around and it was pointing at Carl's door.
Right. Always. Carl, it's a lot of humor, a lot of tough kind of Boy Scout, giving each other a hard time. And it was, I will never I will always cherish those 6 weeks of seeing those guys as schoolboys, because you know when they would arrive, when the other two would finally arrive, and said with love. I will say this, and I want to go to Paul Bielawicz next, but I want to say this one thing about Carl. I think our rehearsals were supposed to start at 1 o'clock, and Carl would show up 1:45, 1:20, and he would stretch. Good day, gentlemen. How are you? Start doing some rudiments, polish up the cymbals, talk to Simone, warm up, put the headphones on, and then about 5 after 1, he'd turn to one of us and say, "Have you heard from Keith? Have you heard from Greg?" And then maybe so. All said with love. All said with love. They just had a flexible schedule, the other guys, and then they would arrive, 10 after, 1/4 after, 20 after, or we'd get a phone call. I'm stuck on the A1, But Carl didn't mind. That's the beautiful part. He would work on something. He would get John Turner to pipe through a part that he needed to work on. He never grumbled. And Carl can grumble if he wants to, yeah. But he didn't. He really said, "You know what? Let me fix this, fix that," and then the guys would show up, and there would be tea, and there'd be that camaraderie. They would ask about each other's wives and children, and then so that's really one of the special things, because I think they knew that look, we're probably not going to go on tour. We're in our 60s. There was a really nice. Coming to landing on the ground that we all saw for all those weeks. And again, as I said, we're going to share some of this with you folks. We've got pictures, we've got some videos, we've got some things. So this is just the day that we're celebrating, but we promise you there's going to be some more memories, and we're going to have people like Martin and Stuart to share with us some more of these thoughts. I want to jump over to the inestimable guitarist and my dear friend Paul Bielawicz. Now, hey. Most of you know Paul, but he is.
How you doing?
Yeah, he's the longtime guitarist in the Carl Palmer Trio. So Carl's younger than all of us. I think he's 16, but not quite. But he's younger than us, and I think. Tell us a little bit, because you play all of this music, and in fact, next week, I know you and Simon are performing Tarkus live on the internet a week from tomorrow. So you folks should look for that on Paul's page. But tell me a little bit, for a younger person, when did you first hear ELP, and what's it like duplicating this music and playing with Carl around the world?
Okay, cool. Thanks, Andre. Yeah, well, just before I do, going back to that, Carl not minding about Keith and Greg being late, I think that's because that's his normal. He's always 10, 15 minutes earlier than everyone for lobby call. I have never got down to a lobby call before Carl Palmer. So that's him. That's him. He's super eager to go, raring with energy, and early for everything. But yeah, so my introduction to ELP was, I'd heard a lot about them. I was really into the 90s prog bands such as Spock's Beard and Transatlantic and those sorts of bands. So I'd heard kind of the legacy and in interviews read about how influential they were. But I'd never heard them until or knowingly heard them until I got a call from Carl saying, would I like to send him a CD to show him what I might be able to, bring to the band. So my first introduction was actually learning some of their music, and I was just blown away by it. I mean,
wow! So that's okay.
Yeah, incredible stuff. So what's it like translating it to guitar? Very, very tough. Thankfully, I never had the pressure of having Keith watch me. There was a few times where we thought he might turn up, and I was nervous for the entire gig. Yes, I don't think he ever actually saw me live. But yeah, I mean, practically a lot of what Keith did is just not very guitar-y. It's all in fourths. For music theorists out there, he played a lot of fourths. His vocabulary was not kind of that, not influenced by the sort of thing a guitarist would play. So, yeah, very challenging.
That's a great synopsis, and it's been great watching you too as I've seen the band, and of course working for Yes, we've done a lot of gigs together.
Yeah.
And what's been wonderful too is watching you really embrace the technology. I think Keith would have been so excited that now on a laptop you can get this MIDI guitar type stuff, and you can really get those Moog sounds, those kind of great big sounds that are really close to you know. It's great to as I've told you before, knowing how Keith and Greg felt about other people doing their music. We talked about it. I couldn't speak for them, but I think they'd be so proud that you and Simon go for every little detail, right? You know,
Yeah. Well, we tried to get it. I mean, obviously we're playing the wrong instruments, but aside from that, we're trying to get it as close as possible on the wrong instruments. But I mean, breakthroughs in technology have just been just allowed us, you know, I've been playing with Carl for 16 years now, which is I believe the same amount of time that Emerson Lake and Palmer were together, you know, combined. It's something like that.
Yeah.
So and the breakthroughs in technology since I first started playing in the band to what we're doing now is very different. So it was a guitar driven trio before, and now we're using a lot of MIDI sounds, using software called MIDI Guitar 2, which just takes everything that I'm playing and triggers samples, amazing IK multimedia samples and sounds that replicate some of these instruments perfectly.
And of course, Dave Kersner is his brother is the K in IK multimedia. But no, I see Martin nodding there, because one of the things Martin and I share is Martin is one of those managers who still loves music, and I always say that to him, because I know a lot of managers. Some of them they're done. They hate music at this point. It's just a job. And one of the things I love on the Yes tours is I'll be over on stage right with Steve Howe's equipment, either during the Yes show or whoever's opening up. And I look to my right, and there's Martin, and he's enjoying it, and he knows the music, or he taps me on the shoulder and he says, "It's fucking great, isn't it?" You know, and I always tell Martin that, and I don't need to impress Martin. I already work for him. I've been hired. I'm speaking honestly. I love that he loves music, and I.
Yeah, but Andre, I'm in awe of you, because you've worked with, I should say, Greg Lake, John Wetton, Steve Howe, Eddie. I mean, you've aimed at the very top. You've raised the barrier every time, Andre. So, and for you to be so loved by these guys, and you were, it says enormous things about you, my friend.
Well, thank you, sir. Yeah, I love what I'm doing, and we've talked about this, and I like I work well with perfectionists, you know. And people need to realize, because everyone you just mentioned does have a reputation of being a little tough, you know. Add Al Di Meola into that. His birthday was a few days ago. And I don't know what it is, but maybe I'm a musician and I'm a teacher. I don't know what it is in my spirit, but I like perfectionists. And I realize that that's all it is. They only want it to be perfect. Yes. They're not, you know, but thank you, and thanks to you, a lot of those gigs have happened. But in converse, I love that on the road with Martin, we can talk about Al Stewart or 10cc or Lizzie or Wishbone Ash, and I really you need to know that's unique also, because a lot of management people, they can't stand music anymore. They're finished with it all, you know, just fucking. So that's always great, and I hope we keep working together once this is all over with other groups. We're
already planning next year, Andre.
Yeah, let's talk about that for a second, Martin. Like from a manager point of view, with all of this COVID and everything, of course you're into 2021, of course, already. Yeah, and with the Yes tour. Is there any plans on the ELP front? Are there any releases or any kind of thing that we should know?
Well, you really need to speak to Bruce Pilato and Carl Palmer about that, of course. But yeah, they've got a 50th anniversary planned, and that would have been this year, and that's been postponed now to next year.
Nice.
And there is quite a bit going on. And I'm still involved with Keith's estate, so we're aware of what's going on. But it'd be worth you speaking to Brucey or Carl, certainly. And then, of course, in 2022 is the 40th anniversary of Asia. So I know that we're planning that with Carl as well.
Okay.
So, and then there's 50th anniversaries all over the place coming up.
Sure.
Tarkus and Trilogy and Close to the Edge and Fragile. Who knows? Golden few years for British prog, I think.
Absolutely. So we'll stay busy. So you're at home just making plans. And I guess for you, you probably, I mean, tell us very, very briefly. I mean, who else did you have on the road this year? You had Wishbone Ash, probably doing something, and some of the other groups.
It was the 50th anniversary for Focus.
Oh, yeah.
As well. The 50th anniversary for Curved Air.
Wow.
As well.
Yeah,
Dave Kilminster was going to, who of course was Keith's guitarist for quite a while with Keith Wexler and so on. Dave was supposed to be out with Roger Waters for the tour this year, so that's been cancelled. Yes, had a full tour of UK and Europe and America this year, and the Cruise to the Edge, of course.
Yeah.
So, so and then this all being postponed to next year.
Well,
but everybody wants to keep going.
Yes, and to see you able to smile and take it in stride is a lesson for everyone. Because if we've lost some work, this gentleman, is being positive and looking ahead and saying, look, we'll be back when we come back. I wanted to jump now with, again, continue on the equipment and the legacy of Keith Emerson, because we carried that giant synthesizer around. I was so honored to be on the crew, because every day we would request 6 people, because you needed 6 people plus the rest of us to lift that thing up, get it on the, and being around that instrument was incredible. I got to play it a few times, and I got to help Keith with a looping program. So I have some of the dust of that incredible one-of-a-kind instrument in my DNA. So I want to go right now and introduce another dear friend, the gentleman named August Worley, who worked for Keith and who is August is a brilliant technician and a synthesist also, and he repairs synthesizers. He's got a company called Paradigm that you should look up, where he makes these beautiful pyramid-shaped analog synthesizers, and he repairs synthesizers. I see a System 15 or something right behind him, and he lives right near me in Asheville. He's a dear friend. Also does a lot for many years for the Bob Moog Foundation, but he worked for many years for Bob Moog and for Moog and for Keith Emerson. How are you, August? Tell us a little bit about your connection.
Good to see you guys again. Yeah, it was good to see Stuart. I haven't seen Stuart in a long time. Just a quick bio, as I worked for Moog Music back in the 80s. When moving that thing around, it was a pain in the ass because we had it back in the engineering department, and it was always in the way.
Yeah.
So it was like, you guys, we need to shift this damn thing to the other side of the room because they're doing some meeting or something like that. So we didn't have a keyboard. We didn't have the keyboard for it, just the modular system. So we didn't get to listen to it very much.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I know, right?
The world's most dangerous synth with no keyboard?
No keyboard. It's like,
Wow.
we didn't have the keys, But yeah, so, and then flash forward 20 years, I worked for Moog Music. I worked for Bob to develop the Mini Moog Voyager.
Right.
But in the meantime, in the middle of all that, I worked for Polyfusion. I'm my Polyfusion teacher, and I was working for Polyfusion for the 96, 97, and 98 ELP tours, where I would come and go depending on what was required, doing maintenance on the modular system, and also I developed the ribbon controller Pyro for Keith. So yeah, it's been a weird.
It's inherent.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Well, and like I've always, that's always been the reference to me is Keith's modular, because it was it's almost like you can listen to a Mini Moog or something like that, and it sounds like there's pillows in front of the speakers compared to that thing. It is the most dangerous synth in the world, especially when you put it through a big system. And we got to do that with Eric's. I got to work on Eric Norlander's Wall of Doom, reconfiguring it into a 6 rack enclosures.
Right.
That going, and we got to do that at one of the Moog fests, and that thing, those things will hurt you. I'm not kidding. You know, samples. You know, there's no comparison.
There's no comparison. You know, and when you get into things like the military that has sonic weapons and these low frequency things, that we start getting into that range with that thing. One of the things I remember with the Emerson Lake tour is every day, our friend here, Keith Wexler and Mark Andre, would do a sound check on that instrument. And a couple times I got to hit the low key on that. And we had some time in the afternoon, and being crew people, you find funny stuff. And they would find the resonant frequency of the room.
Oh, yeah.
And they would make sure that the ceiling shook and some dust started coming down of the venue. And one time, and we have this on video, it was in Texas, Dallas, I think, Keith dialed in the frequency that resonated with the candles out on the tables in the room, and put the candles out. And that, I was like, wow, that's, you know, but you can't do that with. Never mind a synthesizer. Never mind
of the Moog. I just wanted to put a shot up in the Moog, you know, behind us here, Keith and I.
You know, never mind
Tarkus. I love that Tarkus, but I got that.
Never mind the Voyager and all those. But sorry, Al. You can't duplicate it. It's you know. Martin, again, as a manager, was there ever a thought to do a tour without that giant synthesizer?
No.
No, not a question.
No.
Well,
never would happen.
No.
Yeah. Because
we opened for Jethro Tull. It was not in the budget. So and Keith still wanted to do the ribbon controller bit, and so we had to do there's a dual VCO that Moog used to do, and so we had to configure that and actually put a filter in it so he can get some of that squealy kind of sound out of it that he got out of the modular.
Sure.
But yeah, you know, it was, that little box is quite a bit underwhelming when you're used to hearing that thing from a ribbon controller.
Well, don't forget that if you take the top off, what's inside there is a ton of parts jam-packed into a two-space rack. So underwhelming, but it took an awful lot of electronics to make what it is in there. And of course, we ran it through, at that point, instead of carrying Marshall cabinets, it was a rack mount Marshall product that, gets that Marshall distortion. And then it went through a few other things before it made it out to front of the house.
Yeah.
The thing
the thing I found most interesting about that you can't intellectualize this sort of thing, because I've played lots of ribbon controllers and
you can't see it on that.
And when you hear Keith play it, it sounds different. And it took me a long time to figure out that it's because he sweats so much. So you get a little bit of sweat underneath that ribbon and in between the contact board and the ribbon. And that's why we used to cut off a little bit of the tape in two little sections, because he always liked to be able to grab that little spots, because it kind of had a sweat to it. And I like getting confirmation from Wex too.
Yeah, absolutely. That's part of what makes it unique. And along the same lines, I've stood in front of that Hammond, the very same Hammond, and put my fingers down, and I cannot, duplicate what he did. He had a strong hand, massive, technique, and a very unique way of playing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And since I've heard many other people playing Emerson pieces, and it doesn't sound the same, that's one of the beauties of musicianship.
Yeah, that's it. Towards the end too, where he really had only the strength in one hand, to watch him do stuff one-handed, forget about it. There's nobody.
Three fingers.
Yeah.
Forget about it.
I had a lot of talks. Andre, you're unraveling a lot of the technician secrets that we don't talk about. We joke about that stuff, but I had a lot of one-on-one conversations with Emo when he was going through the carpal tunnel and how we were handling it and all that.
Sure.
In rehearsals and when we were doing, when we were in Pennsylvania, Philadelphia for the first gig for the Black Moon, the 32 hertz. We were rattling the roof on when he hit the 32 hertz on the Moog.
Yeah.
And the roof was rattling. And the house was complaining to Will Alexander and to me, can't you guys stop all that rattling?
Nope.
We're
You
not
hired
doing it. Your roof is falling in, you know?
You hired the wrong band. If that's
your wrong band. Yeah.
I wanted to make sure I pass on a couple messages too, and we have a couple more guests that they're going to come in. But two people, Michelle Moog Kusa, of course, Bob Moog's wonderful daughter, says hello. She's on some other things today, but she wanted to say hi. And of course, she's got the Moog Foundation. And those of you interested can go look at moogfoundation.org. And they do beautiful work. They carry on the legacy of Bob with maintaining the history. And there are documents and blueprints and letters and all kinds of stuff. And they have a beautiful museum right here in Nashville called the Moogseum. So it's one of the reasons to visit our beautiful mountain town. We also have the Moog headquarters right here, 5 miles from where I live. So those of you in the United States who want to continue this studying of Keith Emerson and his legacy and ELP, there's almost I just don't even know where the Moog legacy and the fame would be without that Lucky Man solo and all the things that happened. Of course, there's many other people, from Jan Hammer to Stevie Wonder to Malcolm Cecil to all kinds of people who George Duke playing the Moog. Wendy Carlos, a million people. I'm not saying it's only Keith Emerson, but for taking it into the classic rock kind of thing. So all of those things are right here in Asheville. There's a replica of the Keith Emerson synthesizer right in town. You can play it. And then there's the Moogseum. So make sure you look up moogfoundation.org. But so Michelle says hi. Then I also have a special hello from Regina Lake. Greg's widow, who's a wonderful, wonderful woman, and another person I'm so happy to have that I know. And Regina, we had a beautiful talk earlier today, and she said hello to everyone. And but she said, go ahead and tell them that it's an emotional day. She said she couldn't really come in and do this with us, but she said, please tell everyone I said hello. And she said she wanted me to tell this quick story that when they were rehearsing for the Emerson Lake concert, they were rehearsing on this red piano. That's not sure where it is, but there's a red piano they were rehearsing on. And she said it was just her in the room with Keith and Greg starting to look at some ideas. And Greg, at one point, they were finished playing, and Greg said, Keith, you are the greatest keyboard player that has lived. And Keith turned to him and said, and you're the greatest singer. And I know, because I've looked for other ones, and there's no one like you. And so she said that was a story that people hadn't heard. And I've seen that. Again, we keep touching base on that. What we're here today to talk about is the end, the closing bit of this incredible history of this band. But I think we all know, the people who knew them, it's so beautiful that they did go out as friends and they knew that their brotherhood is what made this amazing music and what got them there. And so stories like that, which I'd never heard, is really great to hear. I wanted to jump back over to Tom, because Tom, that beautiful synthesizer you have, tell us a little bit about that. Is that an exact replica of the Keith system, or tell us a bit about that beast sitting next to you?
It's not an exact replica, because I've kind of restored it myself. And I used to use, in my tribute, just a mini Moog.
Okay, you see that?
I used to use just a mini Moog in that position, which is actually built into it at the top.
Right.
I have 4 mini Moogs, and this is my very first one, which is the newer oscillator board, which I bought in the early 80s, and I've gigged it for years. It's very reliable. So when I got the modular, actually, a friend of Keith's put me onto the modular, a chap called Charlie Green. You know Charlie?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Charlie.
It was a friend of his selling it, so I imported it from Florida. And basically, it came with loads of other. It was three cabinets. It was black Formica, and a lot of the modules used to belong to David Van Quevering.
Oh yeah.
He used to do the Island of Electronicus, and I also have the Perspex sign with the RA Moog synthesizer sign, and I've also got. Came with the system for of the 700 series drum modules. The 701, 702. The 702s weren't finished; they were half built, and I've completed them since. And I go to synthesizer shows and I show those, but this modular wanted completely restoring. And I've basically, obviously, I don't have presets. What I've done is I've put switches in here and there. I've drilled holes basically where I shouldn't have done, but I mean I use it live. And it's the early 901 oscillators, and I've actually modified them slightly so I can actually recalibrate them from the front panel. I'm sure everybody technical here knows about when the keyboard goes out of tune, it's the actual controller that stretches the bottom note's always in tune because 0 volts is always 0 volts,
right?
But your 5 volts either gets higher or so it's all proportional. So I've made little modifications whereby I can you can actually sort of get the stretch brought down or stretched further out by one knob even while you're playing. So I've got that dem to fine art so I can play it live. But I've built a lot of my own modules as well, so it does the job. I can get the hold down and the toccata sounds and all sorts. So I'm constantly building little circuits. So
that's great. And again, to have lived through what we now have as a rebirth in all of the synthesizer stuff, you're a wealth of knowledge. And
I just love it.
Back to that.
It actually works as well.
that's great.
Well, Andre, does everybody know where the equipment is? Where Keith's equipment is now? Is that coming out?
Is it at EMEAP?
It is.
Yeah. Is it EMEAP? Yeah, I'll talk about that in a minute.
Okay,
yeah.
good.
So let's say I'll come back to EMEAP in a minute. That's EMEAP, EMEAPP.org for those of you. It's a place near Philadelphia. Incredible synthesizer
it is an
place.
incredible place.
Yeah, and we're going to do a show on it here on my channel. But I want to say hello and say greetings to some Emersons here. Hello, I see Mr. Aaron Emerson. Good to meet you virtually.
Nice to meet you all. Great to see everyone.
There's Wexer.
Hey, how are you?
Right. And Paul. Hi, Paul.
Well, Aaron, just great to see you. I know we've been Facebook friends, but we've never got to speak and meet in person. So this is step one. We can, but yeah, but tell us a little bit, just your feelings today on this 10th anniversary. And I mean, of course, I'm sure a flood of things, but talk to us about your feelings today and about this anniversary.
I just came back from the grocery store, and Jo was playing her footage on the phone from the backstage bit.
Yeah, so there's video that I took from the side of the stage, but it's really dodgy sound. It sounds terrible, but I was standing in Mark Andre's little area and videoing from there because he kept running on the stage playing around with Keith's stuff. So I've got some video from the side of the stage of Fanfare and Lucky Man. Yeah. And it's terrible footage. It's terrible sound. Yeah. But I just brought back so many memories. It's like hands down the best gig I ever saw. Ever.
That's great. It
was great.
The energy. Yeah.
I remember wearing sandals or flip-flops or whatever. Why go to a festival wearing flip-flops? They broke it by the end of it. I remember walking through with bare feet across to the taxi rank and got a taxi back home to Shoreham. Yeah. But we were all walking around London with bare feet. It was great. Yeah. It really was a great day. It was fantastic. They played really well, and it was. It was the crowd was loving it. Everyone was great, and I hadn't seen them all play together for a long time.
Sure.
It was great to see that one, the last one. It was good.
Where's Joe gone?
That's a great memory. And how about your music right now, Aaron? What are you doing? What do you have coming up?
I'm forming two new bands. One guy that I used to play with way back when we were signed to London. We're doing something together again, and another band here that are really sort of 60s psychedelic with organ stuff. I'm doing that, but I also do a lot of session stuff with. There's some dance stuff like the Freemasons, Russell Small,
oh wow,
Steve Mack, and I just do session stuff. I go in, I play some stuff. I try not to make my ears bleed, and then I leave. I don't hear it again. I wait for the money to come through in about 10 years. Maybe it's 50 quid. And then that's that. But I try to keep as busy as possible playing.
Cruise to the Edge, Aaron.
And Cruise to the Edge. Thank you, sorry.
Right.
Cruise to the Edge. I'm playing a lot more of my dad's stuff now. I'm doing Honky Tonk Train Blues. I've got that one in the bag. I'm doing an exhibition. I got the beginning of that. And I've done Fanfare, but my own little take on it. Nut Rocker.
Look at Tom. Tom looks like he wants to say something. Come on, Tom.
No, I don't want to play on my own.
I'm on.
And well, that's great. And is there a website? Is it AaronEmerson.com or anything?
Just on the Facebook. He's got a Facebook page. That's
Facebook. Great. So people can tag in there. That's great. And so wonderful to know that it's going forward. Yeah, and that music.
I'm just trying to get Ethan to come down.
Yeah.
He's
okay, good.
I mean, the thing is, I've always been playing the piano. Obviously not as great as my father, but we've always had different. When I sat around listening to him play, I was just like, "There's no chance. What's the point?" But then I was listening to other bands that he wasn't listening to. I went up to a different scene, But now I'm getting into that because I love jazz. I love all that stuff. But back in the day when I was playing, I was listening to like all this sort of alternative rock bands out there that I was just trying to strange stuff and play. But I just love playing. I just love it. Getting out there and it's exciting. So it's a fun hobby, and it's and I just, if we can get out there and play more, we will. But it's obviously very difficult now. But
that's what counts. That's what counts.
Yeah, I just love it. I just love it.
No, that's great. And I know there's that tribute record, and there's some things that are out there that people can hear you. It's wonderful. Yeah. Thank you so much for stopping in. Yeah.
No. It's great.
Yeah. Again, just talking a little bit about the influence and the equipment and all these things, just, jumping around different topics. One of the things too was Keith, as much as we talk about the Moog and the Hammond organ, he really, he was always curious. He seemed to always be interested in, he knew what he liked, but he was always interested in what was out there. And I think through the years, adding, I think the GX1 and then adding all the Korg stuff. And that was really great. And he did.
Yeah, that's interesting because the GX1, when we had it in Stonehill, there was a picture of me playing it, I don't know, for a little party or something. Sure. And then that was the last time I played, I went over to EMEAC.
Good. Yeah.
First time. Oh my God. I've been practicing fanfare here at home on the piano, but when I got there and I played with there was the chaps, it was the drummer from Gautier, the band.
I can't remember his name.
But we played in front of everyone, and the keyboard didn't have much time to practice on it, but the feeling on that GX1, the keys were smaller and very sensitive and light, and they just put it together so it was a little bit out of tune, but that's not the point. But boy, did I screw that up in front of everybody. And it was the worst one ever because it was that room, and there was the drummer who no one had practiced together, and we were just playing it, and it, that feeling when it halfway through and you still got another 2 more minutes to go, and it was just crashing and burning and falling apart.
Yeah.
It was.
I know that feeling.
It was horrible. I tried to work so hard to get there, but then when it happened, it just didn't happen. And yeah, that was a shame.
So you got to play the actual GX1.
But I got to play it.
I've got photos I can show you.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, please.
Let me see if I can find them.
Don't play the thing when I.
No, I
won't. That's great. And you must have been very young then when he had it. As when he had it, right? You were
Yeah,
a
I
baby,
remember
or-
in the barn. I remember the flight cases and stuff. I remember the flight case of the GX1 was probably heavier than the actual keyboard itself. I remember
Right.
the keys, but I also remember the time when, you know, the tractor went through the barn and smashed it all up, everything up. And I do
Oh.
remember walking into the barn, seeing, you know, all these vintage analog keyboards, like an Oscar. I remember an Oscar being there, and a PPG. And I remember all these things just smashed up everywhere, and you know, and a lot of the times I think about this, and I was saying this to Joe the other day, that, you know, we lived in this country lane, and there's a farmer next door to us, and I know he didn't like us, but isn't it so strange that this tractor is driving up, that he just decided at that one point in that road to turn and go straight through the studio?
Wow.
And I just think he just got fed up with the sound and he just wanted to wreck it.
Wow.
You know, how can you say they just all of a sudden just goes that way and then through the barn? But
I've got this one photo. Here we go.
Oh, wow.
Nice.
That's at EMEAP.
That's
with
EMEAP.
With the Moog and the GX1.
Wow.
And I could say he sounded wonderful because I was there.
Ah!
Don't listen to
No,
any of that.
you
And I
know all
told
about the
him
Goff
Dad would be
poster.
happy. And I told Ethan too, because Ethan played. He played wonderful.
Ethan
All of them
played.
played
Actually,
wonderful.
Ethan played really good.
I've got this video.
Thank God.
I've got.
There you go. Look. Yeah.
There seemed to be a lot of us in that video.
Cool.
Classic.
Yeah.
Ethan had a whole lesson from Al Goff on how to play it
How cool's that?
at 2 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
Stunning. Wow. Thank you, Joe. That's folks.
Joe, that was a great video. Thank you. I haven't seen
Unseen.
it.
No, that's. I'll be in touch because maybe we could put some of that in the documentary. And there's Al, and you know, what great memories, Aaron, of working with this. Not only the artistry of it, but seeing and working with some of the actual equipment of your dad. What a special memory, and to be able to go visit this stuff. Yeah.
Of course, yeah, very special.
To
Very
go
lucky.
visit. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, the other thing too is how today with the software, again, it's never going to be the same, but closing that gap, as Paul talked about before, being able to do things, those synthesizer sounds, and Paul's now got the Tarkus behind him, and again,
hey, how you doing?
Next Sunday, Paul and Simon are going to be performing the entire Tarkus live on Crowdcast. So check out Paul's Facebook. You'll announce it on there, right, Paul?
Yes,
On
absolutely.
Facebook?
Yeah.
And tomorrow we have a discussion about ELP. We're going to continue this in a different format, but more talking about Tarkus and some other things. What time is that, Paul? Tell the
That
folks.
is same time as this was, 3 p.m. Eastern time.
And
so UK time, that's 8 p.m.
8 p.m.
GMT.
Right.
And go to your Facebook, and it's all there.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. If you go, my Facebook page and Crowdcast as well.
Great.
I've just texted Vince from EMEAP, and he would
good.
like to join. Is that okay?
Yeah, please send him.
I'll
Yeah,
send- I'll
Vince
send him
Rapillo
the
would be great. I wanted to say about Al very quickly too. So people know Al Goff. They know the Goff instruments. They know the Goff speakers, and they know he's worked with so many great people, whether Chuck Leavell and Greg Allman and Booker T. Right? Did you work with Booker T? But yeah. You probably can't name an organ player, but
That
one
was
day.
the first song I ever covered was Green Onions. The first
Green
one
Onions?
I ever
That's
played.
great.
First song I did it on my 18th birthday. I did it at the gig. Yeah. Anyway. Yeah.
That's
Everybody
great.
tries to copy that too. It's not as easy as it seems.
I didn't get it right, but I had fun playing it. But yeah.
Yeah.
Well, one time.
Third generation Hammond Tech.
Say again.
Third generation Hammond Tech. Is that
Al.
I'm the second generation.
Second gen.
So
Second
your
gen.
son
My
started
nephew
first.
is the third. Yeah, my dad started in 1940. So
Yeah, it's incredible. And
50 years though.
Yeah,
You
exactly.
know.
incredible. And those of you, Al, is there a website people can learn more about what you're doing? Is there Al Goff or a Goff website?
I hope not. I know. I mean, there's some things on golfprof.com, but basically, I'm the one I try to stay out of everything.
Oh, yeah, that's fine. Although we love this part of your history is something that has changed the world. It's changed us because you've raised the bar on these instruments, and we thank you for that. But one day, Al and I were talking, and I've been so lucky to see Al at different shows. I think you've been at UK and Yes, and anytime I'm on tour in Connecticut, I see if Al's around. Greg Lake, solo tours. So one time I'm talking to Al, and he kind of says, well, I got to split. I got my other job. I got to do some stuff. And I said, other job? Wait a minute. What do you do besides being a genius on Hammond organs and speakers? And he says, well, I want you to make this clear. Look, he's blushing. I want you to make this clear to people. But Al says, well, I'm a consultant engineer for the entire Connecticut and Northeast area for the train lines, the train tracks and the routing of all the trains. And I said, that's crazy, Al. How is that? And he said, Andre, if you think about it, it's exactly the same as electronics. It's a bunch of signal paths, switches going on and off, things that can't run into each other, and design. And so, right, Al, tell us a little bit about that.
Well, you can't do one thing. I mean, anybody on this call, you think of, is there any one thing you do? No, we all do a lot of things, everybody. Well, I do too. And it's, railroad signal engineering. And I'm a signal engineer. And it started in a parallel path to my Hammond work a few years later, but I've never dropped one. I just keep doing both. And now that the Hammond work is kind of laid down to a much more manageable level, I'm ready to retire next year. So yeah, it's been fun. Yeah, it's been fun.
Wow.
And somebody has to do it.
Yeah, this guy. I remember this guy.
Hey,
Ethan.
Hey, Ethan.
Hi, guys.
How are you?
Good to see you, Ethan.
All right, how are you all?
We're good, and we're honored to see you. Why don't you introduce yourself to the fans out there and tell us a little bit about your thoughts
How many
today.
people are watching?
Well, on Facebook, about 60 or 70 people, and I can't tell. Maybe there's some on YouTube now, but this will be on for a while, so hundreds of people will see it.
Oh, hi, everyone. Well, I'm part of this family for a start.
Oh, yeah.
Hello, Ethan.
Hi.
And how about you? How's your music going right now? What are you focused on? What are you working on?
It's okay for a bit. Well, we were planning to do the cruise to the Edge until that's now been cancelled and postponed for 2 years. So.
Yeah. You are still doing that cruise.
Yeah, we are still doing it.
You are.
Yeah.
We'll do it. We'll do it.
Songs you do Inferno.
Yeah, Inferno. Yeah.
And some stuff, and then you do some new ones. Yeah.
Okay.
Vince is waiting for you to let him in.
Oh,
now.
great. Okay, yeah, we'll tag Vince in. There he is. Okay, so we're gonna have Vince Papillo here in a second, and
Here he comes.
but no, I think a lot of people did not know that about Al Goff. That he also. One other thing on that, Al. So, what region of the railroads are you involved in? Is it the Northeast or kind of?
Sorry, I was changing pictures. Actually, I've been all over the world.
All over the
Australia,
world. Wow.
Japan, England. Yep. I worked on the Ural Tunnel project. I've done when they need a signal engineer to come in and look at things. I kind of sneak in and do my thing, and I go. But I go all over.
Simply amazing. Simply amazing. Martin, did you know that? Yeah, amazing, right? You've known this man decades, and I really love the part though. He just turned to me and he said, Andre, it's exactly the same because it's just, signals and it's a train instead of voltage, so I think people should think about that. And, so let's say hello right now to a new friend of mine. I just met him at Prague Stock a couple months ago. Vince Papillo, how are you, buddy?
Andre, how's it going, man?
Hey,
Hey guys, hey everybody, how's it going?
And Vince is one of the directors, one of the creators of an incredible venture called the EMI app, which, if I'm pronouncing it correct.
Yep.
And I'd like you to tell us a little bit about that. And that's emeapp.org.
That's
for those
correct.
of you out there. And it's just outside Philadelphia. And they are a museum. They are an educational facility. They are synth nerds. So tell us a little bit about the place, Vince.
EMIAP, the Electronic Music Education and Preservation Project. We're a 501c3 not-for-profit organization, similar to Michelle Moog's Bob Moog Foundation and Dina Proman's ARP Foundation. We're dedicated to preserving these ancient, not ancient, but classic pieces of equipment for the to keep them alive and keep them running and keep them relevant for future generations. My father and I, who is also Vince Papilla Sr., we've been collecting for the past 10 to 12 years, and over the last 2, we've finally developed a nonprofit to have a meaningful way to share this collection that we built with the world. And it's naturally the coronavirus, the whole pandemic has put a bit of a damper on things, but we're still pushing forward as much as we can.
That's great. That's a great intro. And I'll put the link in the thread there, but I encourage people to look at your site. I look at that from time to time, and wonderful pictures and a lot of what you just said. And I think that, if we all hang in there and just do a lot of planning, your place will be the destination that it should be. I'm just blown away at the collection of stuff you guys have. And also and you and I have been talking. We've been talking about doing some programs there that we'll just tell people to stay tuned. We've been talking about doing some live things there with a bunch of different artists, because you have a live performance space, right? Can you tell us about that?
Oh yes. This building that we are based out of is a 30,000 plus square foot warehouse. Used to be a refrigerated a cold storage facility. Another part of what I'm involved in is our family runs a food production company, and this building was one of our former facilities before we moved out of it. And then over the last 10 years, we've built in kind of part museum, part recording studio, part live venue, part repair shop, part archive. And
everyone's frozen except us.
And it's a great place to visit. Great place to visit.
Thank you, Rob. Thank you.
Absolutely.
I can't wait.
And like Andre just mentioned, one thing we've been building is a live performance hall, and we kind of debuted that space in March of last year. We held an event. Aaron and Joe and Zach and Ethan, Al was there, August was there, and Eric was there too. It was kind of a family reunion of all the different pieces of Keith Emerson equipment that we have in the collection. The iconic Moog synthesizer, the Goff Tarkus C3 organ, the Burned L100 and et al. And it was just a great family reunion. We had over 100 people there, and it was just a great time.
That's fantastic.
It was amazing. It was amazing.
Thank you, Joe.
We can't wait to go back.
Yeah.
I can't believe that was over almost a year and a half ago. I can't believe that.
I know, it's crazy. And one of the interesting facts, Vince, you might want to mention, the L100 that was in the fire in Boston, they have it. We had to help get a little tug of war. It's there, and little drum roll, we got the organ running.
Yes, we did.
It was in the fire.
And we wouldn't have
Those of
done.
you who were not in Boston when that caught on fire, the flames were maybe 2 feet above the top of the L100 coming out of the back of it. It just spontaneously combusted one day during a show.
Why did it catch fire? What happened?
Well, I believed that an L100 built in what, the 1950s or whatever, intended to be played in, play church music once a week in your home or something like that. This thing has been around the world with knives stuck in it, tipped up on its corner, bounced and dropped and humped and, you know, whatever for most of its life. And of course, it's been heavily reinforced and all the tubes had to be glued in so that they didn't, you know, pop out and things like that. There's a lot of work that went into maintaining that or repairing it for the many years of its life. One day it just finally gave up the ghost.
It's almost it's almost incredible that it took that long, right?
But Al, you resurrected it. It actually plays now.
Mm-hmm.
Vince, amazing.
Yeah, what happened was we had rebuilt it multiple times. As I've told people, there is not one L100. We estimate there's somewhere around 15 over the years.
Yeah.
From the Isle of Wight all the way. I mean, there's so many of them, but
well, and each one of them was
organ,
a Frankenstein of however many parts had to get replaced in them.
So Al, I believe. I'm sorry.
This particular organ was the one that was on fire. The starting capacitor, the L100 has a metal starting capacitor for the motor, and it just overheated and it blew up. And the oil, it's oil filled. It caught the black scrim on fire, and it just went up on fire. And everybody was, it's, you know, whatever. So after that, Keith called me and he said, Al, can we do that? Can we recreate that? Absolutely not. Not doing it.
No, we're not going to do that.
No.
Al, I remember you saying when you were talking at EMIAP, you said that your dad was always really cross that Keith used to stab them and do crazy things to them.
I took the heat for years about it. Yeah. My dad was never happy, but the funny thing is it's a testament to Keith because all of the equipment, think about it, Moog number 1 and that C3, the Tarka C3, and the L that was in the fire, they're all in EMIAP and they're all working. They have a wonderful staff there. And Vince and the others do a great job, and it's one of the most amazing places to be when you walk around and see all the equipment they have. It's amazing what they have.
No, it's very hard to do that. And Vince, I think I told you when we met, I was in Melbourne, Australia, and you have a sister place there. It's much smaller. It's like a tiny version. But the MESS.
MESS, yep.
Yeah, I have a few interviews on my YouTube channel from there. By the way, folks, I have a YouTube channel. It's just my name, Andre Cholmondeley. Please go and subscribe, and we're going to have a lot more things like this. And the stories are what glue this all together, you know, these great memories. And we all have these stories. And another story, I always, you know, we have so many laughs on the road. All of us, but Martin, one of the manager stories, and I know you weren't managing the band at this point, but a story that Greg tells me when they did the orchestra tour, I think it was, so 70, was that 5, 6, something like that, and so he said he went back to the hotel, and he got in the elevator, and so this is the orchestra tour. This is the tour, folks, where there are 75 people, you know, there's a huge crew and there's 3 trucks and all this. So Greg gets back to the hotel and he gets in and he said he punched the floor, gets in the lift for the Brits. And he goes up and he said, Andre, I realized when the door opened, I was on the wrong floor. And Greg is the greatest storyteller. And if anyone doesn't have his audio book, you got to get it because him telling these stories and the stories of a lifetime tour, you know, the stories, it's all about that voice, you know. And he would, and he said, and so he pauses for effect. He says, Andre, I knew I was on the wrong floor because I looked out to the left and I looked to the right. And all I could see was room service trays, empty bottles, beer cans, towels, a few sleeping young ladies, and lots of debris. And I realized.
I love your English accent.
And that's when I realized I was paying for it all.
Yeah, very
right?
good.
That's Greg, right? And he said, and that's when they brought it back down the next year because he really said, you know, And that's where I wanted to pay a quick tribute to something else about Greg, and Martin was central to this, and I thank him too, because Martin is a nimble manager. He understands that it's a moving target. Things are different every year. No, you are because and as you said before, and it's very inspiring. I think people need to take this in stride. That despite what we're in, you're upbeat. You know it's going to be okay, and we'll be, and that's a very inspirational thing. But I remember when we did the solo Greg Lake tour, the final one, which John Turner, I want to ask about that too. And you came to us and you said, guys, it's going to have to be small. It's going to have to be smaller because we're playing smaller places, and we're playing, and myself and John and Ollie.
Yeah, Ollie.
We got into a little truck, and we brought it down, and we played these smaller places, and we stayed in very simple hotels, and But I'm telling this story for a very important reason. One of the key things is that Greg Lake also stayed in that hotel with us. Greg Lake realized that, you know what? It's not the champagne years right now. It's not 1975 or 73. And I always carry that as a lesson. People know I've worked for a lot of people and I do management. But one of the most important lessons was that tour. Because once again, Greg said, I want to go play this music.
Yeah.
I want to do this tour. And a lot of other artists. And Greg actually drove his Land Rover to the gigs. You remember that, Martin?
Well, he wanted it to be intimate, actually.
Yeah.
Because it was a big tour that, the Songs of Lifetime was really important to him, and it was what it said. It was what it said on the tin. And he was playing places, but there are still places like Shepherd's Bush Empire, which is iconic. Andre, of course.
Of course.
And he was playing everything from all of his career, and he was playing songs that he loved, like Frank Sinatra songs and things like that.
Yeah.
And of course, I Believe in Father Christmas.
Beatles, yeah.
So it's completely eclectic. And with everything Greg did, it was done at genius level, as you know, Andre. And a wonderful time. And you're quite right. That was the final tour that Greg did. Yeah.
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 Sorry to interrupt, Andre. Mari's waiting to be let in.
Oh, Mari's in. Okay. But the key thing there is that so many people would have scotched the tour. They would have said, no, I refuse to do this without all mod cons, all luxury.
And he wanted to do it that way.
Oh, yes, he wanted to. Yes, you're right. But once he realized, okay, that's not it, he stuck with it. And so it was great seeing him. What was that hotel chain, John?
Premier Inn. We stayed in the Premier Inn.
Yeah,
we made everything fit. I got Bob's truck from up here, the PA. And Greg said, he called me up, Greg, and said, Johnny, Greg here, as he did. Where are you staying? I said, well, I'm just doing the hotels now for us all. I said, Andre, myself, and Ollie, Premier Inns. I said, I'm just finding out something. Premier Inns are great.
We love
the same. He did. So that was it. I cancelled the other stuff I got.
Yeah.
Recalled all the Premier Inns up, but he wanted the room downstairs near the exit.
Yeah.
Near the entranceway. So we made it fit. And of course, we just went and did it. And then we made it all fit in a 7.5 ton truck, which worked fine until we got to Italy. And we got 3 pallets of books turned up, Andre.
That's right.
Remember the books?
Yeah,
no flight cases, just loose books everywhere.
Piacenza and all that. Yes. No, I do remember that. And but you're right. I forgot that part that Greg was going to stay in the other hotels, and he said, "I'll stay with you, chaps." So that's another wonderful memory. It was a team. He would show up with us, but as Martin just said, the bar remained here for the music, the performance, the stage set. He really, well, the evidence is on the recording. It's a great live record. And
let's go back to when we were at Liverpool.
Please.
We went up to Liverpool on the Songs of a Lifetime show.
Yeah.
We'll go back to the Moog with the 32 hertz.
Yeah.
So we had it on Lucky Man, and Greg said, John, get ready for the bottom end on Lucky Man. So of course I got it dialed in there. He came off stage. He said, "John," he says, "What the fuck was that?" He said, "That's the first time I've played a 22-string acoustic guitar."
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, we had it shaking.
Feedback.
Hit it.
The famous feedback. And hey, Mari.
Oh yeah,
here.
the
Hey,
feedback.
Mari.
Hey, Mari.
Hey,
Feedback.
No, exactly. I was going to jump over to Eric again too on this idea of now. Eric has at this point it's a famous system that you have there. Your colossal modular system, and Eric's been involved in quite quietly actually in a lot of very important. Oh, good, we're going to get a shot of it.
No,
Eric was involved with the
corner. Sorry. Yeah.
Oh, there we go. Eric's been involved in consulting many important synthesizer companies.
I do have this. I do have the ribbon.
Wow, look at that.
Oh, there's a ribbon.
Oh, cool.
It doesn't have the rocket launchers on the bottom like Keith's does.
You need the pyro attachment, yeah.
Right.
Not the gas.
Oh. Hold it up closer.
Does it have like a rocket thing underneath it where it's?
No, that's what it's missing. This is just
okay.
Just the
control.
So that,
is that the same one? Is that,
no, this is mine. I
Oh,
think
cool.
Vince has the one from your dad.
Keith
Oh, okay.
Wexler may have one in his pocket. Hold on.
That's the
Keith,
same
take a
one.
look, will you? You have one?
he might have the other one.
Oh, he's just.
And as I recall, the one that Vince has does still have the rocket launchers on the bottom of it.
Here's
So,
a good photo of it.
Nice. Oh,
He
that's
says
cool.
he has two.
right.
And Eric, that goes right to my question. When did you decide and say, you know what, I'm going to have a big modular system like Keith Emerson? Because that's kind of an out of her reach. That's a fantastic goal to go for. When did you
I was designing synthesizers for a company called Alesis back in the 90s.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And, we were doing this instrument called the QS8 that
Right.
Keith ended up using on tour. And we were building the sample library for it.
Okay.
And, so we did string sections and brass sections and sampled pianos and all the things you do. And then we wanted a bank of synth sounds. So I thought, I have to get Keith's modular. What better synth would there be? And that's, obviously how I met him, doing that sample library a few years before. So I called him up and I said, hey, Keith, can we hire your modular? And he said, no one's ever asked me that before. And he said, sure. So we had a lift gate truck and a crew of, probably 5 or 6 people. And we took that and the GX1 and brought it over to a studio in the San Fernando Valley in Los Angeles. And I had it there for about a month. And I was just working with it every day and, just
Mario Facebook.
The 901B oscillators and, the custom sample and hold module that there's only one of course. And I thought to myself, this is the most amazing synth I've ever heard. I have to get one of these. And
Okay.
that's easier said than done.
Yes.
But I set about, it was probably a 10 or 12 year mission of finding a system. So I found a 3C, much like, or 2C rather, much like Tom has. And I just built on it from there. I found, some modules that were burned in a fire in the Midwest somewhere. And I had those restored and had some custom things built, some custom mixers. And all of that, and it turned into the Wall of Doom, as it's called now.
Sure.
Let me see how to do this background thing on Zoom, and I can load up a picture of it. But,
Okay. Yeah.
Go talk to someone else.
Well, no. While we're doing that, and I have some Alesis right next to me here. I still use.
There you go.
I'm in my studio.
I will tell you the instrument I'm most proud of from that era is the Andromeda, which was a voice analog synth that I co-designed.
Yes.
And I tried to convince Keith to use it when he did that gig opening up for Led Zeppelin with Chris Squire.
Right.
And who was the drummer from Bad Company that played with them?
Simon Kirk?
Simon Kirk, that's it.
Okay.
So he went and they played Fanfare, opening up
Right.
for Zeppelin.
Zeppelin
And
reunion, yeah.
asked me,
Yeah, the reunion.
you know,
Yeah.
Yes. Do you have something, that can do that GX1 sound? Because obviously we're not going to fly the GX1 over to this one gig. And I said, well, I have a synth called the Andromeda, and you should use it. And
can I please
so,
have that video? I knew I needed to ask you something. Can you
That's
please
great.
WhatsApp?
That's great that he I didn't know that he played that. That's yeah, and
didn't end up using it in the end, but yeah.
Oh, he didn't. Okay.
He did not. But
Yeah.
here, I've got to load this virtual background
Yeah.
thing. Okay, someone else.
Okay,
talk.
yeah, no, I was gonna say, again, the focus here, of course, we're all here because on July 25th, 10 years ago, that final gig at the in London, was it Victoria Park? Is that the name of it? Victoria Park of
yeah, Victoria Park. Yeah.
Victoria Park, and just again the anticipation for that gig. We all worked for weeks. And Martin, do you remember too? They were doing a movie on that soundstage with Martin Scorsese was doing a movie.
Oh,
Remember
no,
that?
Captain America,
I
wasn't it?
heard about this one.
Well, there was Captain America, but there was another movie with
You mean Shepperton?
Shepperton.
Told me about
Yeah,
it.
what was it called?
It was a movie called Hugo.
Hugo, is that it?
Oh, I love that
With
movie.
who's the gentleman? The gentleman that played Gandhi. What's his name again? English gentleman.
Ben Kingsley.
Ben Kingsley.
Ben Kingsley. So Ben Kingsley was there, and
That's right, yeah.
Mari, maybe you were there that day, but I remember Keith was wandering around with a cup of tea, and he runs into Martin Scorsese, and there's a piano.
They were in the car because the booking of the studio or something. Or
Yeah, tell us if someone knows on that, because didn't he play piano for Scorsese?
Martin told me this. Didn't you tell me this, Martin?
Or Mari does.
Someone told me.
Yeah,
Mari know?
because the I think the director or someone producer or somebody. Were you there when he took us on a tour of the set?
Scorsese did, I think, right?
Yeah, I don't know. I can't remember. And then there was
Okay.
a piano on the set.
Yeah.
And then Keith stopped playing.
Yeah.
He was in the toilet, Andre.
He was in the what?
He was in our toilet backstage. You know, we had our own unit.
Right.
So, right, this is God's honest now. So I'm in the carsy, and somebody got in the toilet.
It's English for toilet, so you know.
Yeah, Marie. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
restroom.
I'll speak in Barnsley. I was in the Bodnik, and somebody went in the cubicle next to me. So after he made a couple of noises, he banged on the door and said, "Did you see the England match last night?" He said, "They were fucking shocking. They were terrible." And I walked out. I thought, I don't know what this voice is. I don't recognise him. And he walked anyway. I went out, flushed the toilet, walked out, and I'm washing my hands, and he followed suit. I thought, I don't know him, and then I recognised him. It was Ben Kingsley.
Oh, wow.
Sir Ben. And he said, "Is this Emerson Lake and Palmer in here?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Could I have a look?" I said, "Yeah," and that's when he popped his head in the door.
Oh.
And then afterwards, he went back out the other way and came back, and I believe Martin Scorsese came to the doors.
That's right.
You were there, Martin, as well, I believe, that time.
Yeah.
You came in.
Yeah. Well, I think it's either Keith or Greg kept asking when they were going to make Gandhi 2.
There you go. That's exactly. People who know these guys know that. That's what it was all day. You know, we should have been writing these down, right, Martin? The jokes are, but
wasn't there some sort of thing that happened before they went on stage? Wasn't there some sort of problem with the chaps before skidding when the LP came on stage? Wasn't there something happened before that?
Yeah, is that Tom?
Or something happened.
Go on, Mark.
Spoke like that.
Talking about high voltage festival.
There was a problem.
Well, there was a punch up, yeah.
Yeah, something.
Yeah, we discussed it earlier. Yeah,
The band on before
yeah,
ELP was running late.
Yeah, it was.
According to the Sun, it was the ELP crew. Yeah.
Yeah, it was the Joe Elliott group, and they ran over, and the next day this big thing in the news. In fact, it was on New York radio. This big thing about ELP fighting, and it got cleared up 2 days later. But the clear up never gets.
We should have run with that. We could have been like, yeah. It
The
was
legend is better than the truth. But
Yeah.
none of us were actually fighting them.
I didn't see
It was the stage manager and their crew.
It was a great day. And
what was his name? The playing with the Joe Elliott.
Joe Elliott.
From
Def Leppard. Yeah. And it's funny because we've all lost a lot of tours this year. But right now, I would have been on tour with Poison. Yeah. And again, indirectly, thanks to you gentlemen, because Martin Darvill brought me onto a cruise, I met Larry Morand, who then hired me. So everything we do is connected, and we all get gigs because we tell each other what's happening. But I was going to be on tour working for Poison with Joan Jett, Motley Crue, and Def Leppard.
I know about that. I heard about that tour.
Well, next year, we hope. So, but
we want to come to that tour.
Yeah.
Well, next year. But I was so looking forward to see Joe Elliott again, because again on this day he was there, and he was a wonderful guy. He was very friendly and wonderful. When you have a guy like that again, that stadium rocker, and he just walked up with no attitude, and I'm just a crew guy. I'm just standing there, and he walked right up and he says, "Hey man, I'm Joe. How are you?" And just so the band was good. They were really cool. They did Funeral for a Friend, and Ian Hunter sat in, and it's just a shame that it ran late, but it was really great. And before them, see if any of you remember this. Does anyone remember who was on before Joe Elliott? He's now a huge star now. Huge. Joe Bonamassa, very good. Yeah. And he was just up and coming then. Now, he's but that's another guy where he had to warm up and do his thing. But all of us in the crew, we got there just to give some perspective. We got there, I think at 6 a.m, wasn't it, guys? Like to load in. Do you remember, Keith?
Yeah, it was
6 a.m. Yeah.
It's really early.
And we went in, we got it all up on stage, did it all, and maybe by 10 a.m, we were kind of, things were moving, and then we had a little break. I don't know, from 1 o'clock for a couple hours, but I remember it well. Just one of the longest days, and we. It's so good to be able to look back and say that it all worked.
It was amazing. It was amazing. Amazing.
Yeah.
I lost half a stone that day. I lost half a stone in about 12 hours.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it all worked, but it didn't fall apart.
Yeah, enough of it worked. Paul, you of course tour for 16 years now with Carl. You say, huh?
Yeah.
Wow, that's incredible. So Paul really is the person, I think, not to blow smoke, but the person going around the world, because the Carl Palmer Band plays everywhere, and playing those Keith Emerson lines to more people right now. It's strangely enough, though, on a guitar. That's
not
always,
right now, but
yes. In these times. Now, did you meet Greg also?
I did. Yeah, I met them both for the first time back at that after show party.
Okay.
And they were just, I didn't really know what to expect, but they were just so warm and such sweet guys that I couldn't have wished for a better experience. They were very welcoming for sure.
That's great.
Here's a good anecdote.
Please.
I met Paul 2 weeks before I met Keith.
Wow.
Right in New Haven.
Yeah.
At a show?
At Toad's place. The Carl Palmer Band was playing in a place called Toad's Place in New Haven. It's a dive bar, like 200 people.
Yes.
Place.
Those bars are the best bars, though.
Yeah, and Paul was playing. And I thought he was like, wow, look at this 17-year-old looking guy playing. I was so impressed. You were already like a 25. I thought he was like 17. And then I found the flyer of the gig. It's a Keith Emerson band that's coming. I had no idea. and I was late again, of course. And then 2 weeks later, I went to see Keith Emerson Band. That's when I met Keith, the same place.
Wow.
Exactly the same place. And that's the first place I met Jeff Downs too. Both place. He was touring with Asia with John Payne at that time. That was 2006. Remember the Paul?
Mari, did you say Toad's place?
Yes.
Yeah.
In New Haven?
Yeah.
Oh,
Pretty
yeah.
famous place, actually.
Yeah, I was there. I know.
That's your hood.
How you know that place?
Wasn't it Tony Ortiz that introduced you?
That's right. Yeah. Well, Keith asked Tony to hold me there, you know,
right.
And he bought me drinks and gave me all the merchandise. And okay, I'll stay. And that's
Yeah. Oh, Tony, rest in peace, Tony. I mean, you know, what a special guy, and he would have loved this today.
Yeah.
Oh, look at that.
That's probably Mari right there.
Right in front. Wow.
I was
Look at
right
that.
in front of Mark Bonilla, and I couldn't even see Keith because he was in the darkness. And I thought Mark Bonilla was Keith Emerson. So afterwards, I went up to Mark and I said, "What a great band you have." And I said to Keith, I said, "Oh, who are you?" Everybody's like, "What? You don't know?" Yeah.
No, well, Mark. Well, someone say hi to Mark too, because I reached out to him, but I didn't hear back. But he, of course, in that final band, and it's perfect that you brought that up because I wanted to pivot to August and get some thoughts because here is the final gig.
Yeah.
There's Mark and Keith with the synth. That's from Moog Fest 2014, and I think. August, was that the last time we saw Keith? Is that when you last gig, you know? Yeah. And do you remember that? We kind of helped him out with just getting around town and stuff.
Yeah. It was I wanted to get Pyro on the ribbon for that one, but I guess they wouldn't go for it.
Right. At the last minute.
Wore them
Yeah, so many of the last shows, it was just not possible to do Pyro.
Yeah.
Post station fire.
Right. But that was a real special day because it was Keith and Mari were here, and here was the Moog Modular in Asheville at the Moog. And also, didn't they unveil with Gene Stop? They unveiled the duplicate.
Right.
So a really special day. I've put in the comments on the YouTube on the Facebook guys because I did an interview with Keith, which is really special interview in 2014. And so those of you who haven't seen it, I put it in the links. But really great that he came to Asheville. And Aaron, I hope you come to Asheville sometime. Have you been here? Please. Sorry? Have you been to Asheville?
No.
Oh, please. We have an open invitation.
I would love to.
Yeah, we'll be in touch. But yeah, really, let's put something together where,
I would love to.
Because we've got the Moog headquarters, we've got the Moog Foundation, and we have Make Noise, which is one of the most incredible modular synth companies. So let's bring you down for a couple of days.
Thank you for asking. I would love to do that.
No, yeah, you play a concert, do some workshops, and let's keep this going.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Andre, you remember the drama at the gig at Moog Fest?
Which one? There's always drama.
Moog Fest in 2014 in Asheville.
Yeah.
With Keith Emerson band drummer was Joe Travers.
Right.
Who happens to be he became my really, really close friend here in Los Angeles afterwards. He plays with Chuck all the time.
Yep.
Gig. So it's all connected, all connections are there.
Yeah.
Wonderful. That was a great gig. Do you know if there's any recording or video?
There's some people with some amateur videos, but we really, I hope someone got it correctly because it's one of the last gigs. And Bernie Worrell was there that day. He played right before.
Yeah.
And there's some special pictures of Keith and Bernie hanging out. And but I do hope someone captured that because it was really
because I was sitting at the FOH for the show and someone was recording that. I mean videotaping that.
Right.
So maybe we can make an inquiry of the movie. Maybe August can help us and whoever.
Yeah, no, that's a real special thing. But well, we're gonna wrap up, and I just want to, if anyone's got kind of a closing comment they want to share, just jump in, but I just want to say, wow, thank you to everyone, especially on late notice, because I kind of put this together. Really, really thankful, especially for some of you that it's getting late in England.
I know, I didn't have time to do my hair.
Yeah, I know. But my request for the fans out there, for people watching this, and the people who will watch this later on, and it's on Facebook. We got almost 200 comments, and we've had a couple hundred people come in and out listening. So I'm going to keep it up on Facebook so people can watch this some other time.
Great job.
Yeah, but I ask people to, let's first of all support the people doing music right now.
Sure.
Go look at Paul Bialatowicz, his beautiful music of his own. Eric Norlander has a record coming out, lots of music of his own. Go look up Emmy App and what they're doing.
Yes.
Yeah, likewise, the Emersons, find out what they're doing. Let's live for today and in the future. A lot of beautiful music happening, and it all ties back to what we came here today for, to Emerson Lake and Palmer legacy. And Tom Zachary with his incredible band. They're
Can
going
I
to keep
make
playing.
a plug, please, Andre?
Please, yeah. This
You
is
did ask anybody. Yeah, we should have been playing the 50th anniversary Isle of Wight festival this year, but it was cancelled, so we're doing that next year.
Okay. And what's your website?
Just
I want a ticket, Tom.
noddyspuncture.co.uk. Say
Not
again, Aaron?
I want a ticket.
half price.
Yeah, it's noddyspuncture.co.uk, but I can't find the logins to edit it. So.
Okay, I'll put it in the Facebook chat. Again, it's all on my Facebook. The links will be there. Okay, great. So next year, Isle of Wight. That reminds me of a quick Greg Lake story too, which we could go all day. But so they played Isle of Wight, of course, and as most of you know, they were great mates with the Who. Right? To the end of his life, Greg was very good friends with Pete Townsend, who lived very close, you know. And also, Greg plays on a Who record. A lot of people don't know that.
I have a story for that quickly.
Go ahead. Yeah.
We went over to Roger Daltrey's trout farm in Ripe.
Yeah.
He told us to fuck off. So I don't know No, he was all right. He was sort of like, what are you doing fishing there? Fish over there. No, but he came over to the house. He came over to the house once. We opened the door, and I do remember the door. And Roger was there. I'm thinking, because I didn't really know who the Who was at that particular point. But he came in, and I remember him talking to Dad, and I remember they were doing a song together.
Yeah.
I'll never forget. So I do remember him saying, "You have to go easy with the words because it takes me a long time remembering them." I'll never forget that. But they were in the little room just going over a song or stuff. But that was pretty cool.
That's a great story, and hopefully you have a book, Aaron, because I know you have some great stories. But
they get better than that, I swear.
We've told Eleanor many times she needs to write a book, but she just won't.
Yeah, no, because pictures of an exhibitionist, your dad's book is incredible. I hope that goes back in print. But Greg said they're driving down to the Isle of Wight, and he said in the little ELP van, because remember, they were a baby band at that point. That was a big gig for them. So Greg says they're in this van, or a lorry as it would be, and they decided to drive down behind Mooney, as they called him, you know. So he said, Andre, we're driving down behind Mooney's car. He's in his Mercedes, but he's got an inflatable doll that he's blown up halfway and hung the legs out the back.
Oh yeah, that one. I know. Yeah.
So they're driving down, and Greg, you know, they're cracking up because there's Mooney, and everyone's driving by, and you know, pointing because it looks like some young lady's legs are hanging out the trunk or out the back door.
I'm looking forward to seeing the film because I heard that Roger Daltrey was directing a film on Keith Moon.
Oh.
A couple of years ago, he's been working on this film. So I mean, I hope it finishes. I'd love to see it because that's going to be wild.
Please, yeah, no, that would be great. No, I'm ending on that note for myself because it's a lot of fun, a lot of funny stories from these guys. One of the most serious, detailed, perfectionist groups in history. Mm-hmm. But the yin yang of that was they were very humorous guys, and there's things like Benny the Bouncer, and a lot of these things show us in the music. But these stories. But if anyone has another closing comment, please just raise your hand and jump in. Go ahead, August. Yep.
So we had a break, and I think we were in Wolf Track Park, and Wex might remember this, but they decided to add C'est La Vie. They hadn't played it, and earlier parts of the tour. And so they had a Fly Keith accordion out, and he couldn't remember how to play the solo for the accordion part. And I remember being downstage, I was fixing a cable or something like that, and I'm right in front of Greg. And Greg's going, well, you got to remember the solo. And he starts playing through it, and he starts whistling it. The accordion solo.
This is Greg whistling the solo to Keith.
Yes, whistling the solo to Keith. Remember, it goes like this. And so he whistled the entire solo as he was playing the guitar. And I just kind of look up and go, why don't you just do that? And it was kind of an interesting, because you can see the wheels turning with Greg, and it's like, maybe that's, And it was like a challenge to Keith. It's like, don't worry, I'll remember it. I just got to get my fingers on, get it under my fingers and all that. So it was kind of really an interesting little thing. But it's like, I never knew that Greg could whistle that well.
And remember, you don't just have to send out the accordion, but it has to be the accordion and a beret.
Yeah, that's right.
Oui.
Yeah, remember we stuck.
Yeah,
we lit some incense.
Maybe a baguette with some brie.
Keep them to the underside of the thing, so he kind of followed like this little cloud of smoke around him. When he finally got to stand next to Greg and play this solo, he had like this little envelope of ambient smoke going on. So it was, that's just those weird little stories that that up along the way, right? So.
Yeah,
Anyway.
well, that's a great one.
The last time I actually spoke to Greg was by accident. I actually by accident night once, and he got back to me, and he was just very nice on the phone. He said, "Aaron, because Dad wasn't well. This was a long time. It was about 5, 6 years ago. I pocket dialed him at work.
Yeah.
Accidentally at 12, and he answered. I was like, oh no. And we spoke, and he just said, he was so kind, and he just said, Aaron, there's anything you need, anything at all, just give me a call. And that was the last time I spoke to him. But I was just like, oh.
Yeah. No, those are the things you remember, right? Very
nice on the phone. He was really nice.
Always kind. What? Anyone else? One more.
Yeah.
Memory. Go ahead, Mari. Yes.
Yes.
Mari, put your hand up.
I just want to say, because I see Vince there. Hi, Vince.
Hi, Mari. How's it going?
Hi. Just wanted to collectively say thank you to Vince and his father again for keeping Keith's legacy, his instruments. What a great place for him to be, for his things to be. I was so relieved about that. And I also would like to say, Eric, happy birthday tomorrow. We have a same birthday.
Early birthday,
huh? To Mari too.
Happy birthday.
Yes.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, Eric. Happy birthday to you.
Yay.
Asynchronous.
There you go, Tom.
Asynchronous happy birthday.
But yeah, I'd like to say something real
Please.
quick.
Go ahead.
So, Joe, Aaron, Mari, I just, I wouldn't, my father and I, it wouldn't mean what it means to us if we didn't have your support, and it means the world that you've accepted an outsider like me and my father into the world, and that just makes it all more worth it. And just thank you for making us part of the family. It really means the world to me.
Thanks, mate. No, absolutely.
We have Erin and I have weekly FaceTimes with Vince now every Sunday. That's
Great,
our FaceTime day, and
nice.
we catch up every week, and it's been amazing getting to know Vince and his family. It's been amazing.
Thank
and
you,
they are.
And it's a highlight of our week every time we do that.
It's been great.
That's great.
And we'll talk to you tomorrow.
If you're down, how about noon Eastern time?
We'll be there.
Sounds great.
That's great.
Beck and I are looking forward to that. And Mari, it's great to see you again. Eric, August, Al, Andre, it's just a great. And then Keith and Tom and Martin, John, we haven't met in person, but it's great to see you all. And
yeah, great to see you.
I just
You too, man. You too.
I feel like I'm I am a newcomer to the Emerson Lake and Palmer camp, but they've been my favorite band for as long as I can remember. Keith's my favorite musician out of anyone, and it's an honor to try to do everything I can to keep his legacy going, even if it's just carrying after a Moog synthesizer or a Hammond organ. It's a responsibility that I don't take lightly.
Now that's well put. Well put. And again, anyone watching this, just follow up, check out the links, and we'll all see you next year. And we're gonna do some more on this special day. This is a day that we got to keep documenting because it was really just the culmination of an incredible story. So thank you all for tagging in and giving some time today on Saturday. Again, I have a YouTube channel. Just punch in my name. I'll put some of these links up there. And I'll be back at 7 o'clock for the second part of this because it's also the 40th anniversary of AC/DC's Back in Black. So I'll put a totally different hat on, and we're going to talk about rock and roll and AC/DC. Keith was a fan of some of that hard rock. You know, he liked those kind of things. But thank you so much, everyone, and we'll see you all next time we see you.
Thank you, Andre.
Thank you,
Bye,
Andre.
everybody.
Cheers, everybody. Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
All right.
Andre.